Good morning, everybody. What is going on? Happy Saturday. Hope you guys are having a great weekend. It is time for the show. So, I know I said when I heard about this, I said it was interesting to me, but it might not be the most interesting thing to you. So, if you're not watching this show, I understand. But I see that the Rogan Trump podcast has came out. So we're going to probably spend the better time of this stream watching this Rogan Trump interview unless, and I'll be honest with you, unless we have the potential. We have the potential. Let me just say this as clearly as possible. We have the potential that this just turns into Joe Rogan crying about COVID and Donald Trump crying about his victimhood. That's probably the most likely scenario that we are going to encounter right here. What's happening, Nana? So there's a pretty good chance that this just turns into that. Just Joe Rogan complaining about COVID and asking Donald Trump dumb shit questions that Donald Trump has no answer to about COVID and the handling of COVID, which would be one of the reasons I want to watch it is because I want to see if he asks him any of those questions, because obviously Donald Trump was in charge of much of the COVID response at the beginning. You know, there's a lot of questions when I thought about them having this podcast that I thought about, like, does he ask him about the injecting disinfectant? Does he ask him about the getting UV lights into the body? Does he ask him about, COVID going away, as soon as it's warm? And I think the answer to that question is pretty clear. I think 6-8 years ago, if we had the Joe Rogan podcast of 6-8 years ago, I think he'd get asked those questions. But I don't think he will. Don't spoil it for me. I haven't seen it. But I don't think he will. Because the Joe Rogan that exists now is one of two people. He's either the bro podcaster that gets on and asks his comedian friends or his fighter friends about how don't they think it's weird what happened during COVID? Don't they think it's weird what happened with the vaccine? Don't they think he's literally turned into the guy from the History Channel, the aliens guy. He's literally became him at this point. So it's either that guy that shows up, or it's going to be the glaze Joe Rogan. I don't know why he does it. You could say it's money, but he doesn't seem to need money. You could say it's connections, but he doesn't seem to need the connections. I think it literally is brain damage. I think it's just brain damage. What up, golf? Rogan is a weather vane road freak. Think about the little punk ass that used to host Fear Factory, Barry Bonds syndrome, if I've ever seen it. Yeah, exactly. Golf. The more I watch things on the NFL, the more things I watch things on the UFC, the more I watch things on WWE and Vince McMahon, the more I see that there's this really bad equation of brain damage, power, and money. And I think none of us really saw it coming because evolutionary-wise, I don't think it's something we've ever really dealt with, right? I mean, the wealthy, for the most part, in our history, haven't been people that get brain damaged by fighting or playing sports. And now it seems like there's this proliferation of people that have money, wealth, connection, and status that also have taken many hits to their head and have been choked out unconscious, and it's a really strange equation to give people that potentially don't have a fully functioning brain the type of power that these people now have. I think that is really actually something that society should take a lot more seriously. I was just talking to my wife about Junior Seau. When Junior took his own life, Junior, shot himself in the chest so that way people could study his brain because he knew that something was wrong. And Junior was actually like a really good dude. He was like really well respected in the community, a family man, one of the best linebackers that ever played the game of football. But he wanted people to like study his brain. Chris Benoit, when he passed away, in a very tragic way of taking the life of his 7-year-old son and his wife, and then taking his own life, his father, asked a former wrestler that was a neuroscientist and Harvard graduate to look at his brain for him. And he's one of the first, real people that advanced the science of CTE. I really do feel like there's a very strange, allegedly, very strange convergence of people that have wealth and power and also people that may have severe brain damage. Is this how idiocracy begins? I've asked this question before, but not in this manner, right? Like usually I'm joking about like Donald Trump being a moron, Donald Trump, being like just a useful idiot, and that's how idiocracy starts. But I've also said on this show multiple times now that Donald Trump isn't the main character. Donald Trump's just like a sideshow, an attraction. He's the lady with the beard, the 700-pound woman. Like he's just a sideshow, to be honest with you. I think that there is a much deeper issue to what is like the underlying disease of why America is acting the fuck out right now in the weird way that it is. And I think that it has something to do with brain damage. What's going on, Robert? What's up, Tabula? All right. Well, anyways, like I said before, I understand if you guys don't want to sit through this. This could be a complete shit show. Donald Trump hasn't exactly been prime Donald Trump, and Joe Rogan hasn't exactly been prime Joe Rogan. So this could be the weirdest, totally fucking insane circle jerk of all time, or it could be hilarious. I'm just not sure which. Also, if I do get at any point a warning that Joe Rogan doesn't want me watching a show like this, we'll switch over to some more normal stuff that we usually watch, people we usually watch. But I thought that this was important, actually. I think it's both funny, and I hope that it's fucking hilarious to watch these two. But I also do think that there is like a seminal moment of bringing together the CTE wealthy with the useful idiot. I have to see it. It's a train wreck that I can't turn away from. So I love you guys, and I appreciate you guys for being here. Let's watch the show.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
No, of course, my headset's off. One of these days, I'm going to remember to turn my headset off. Also, by the way, guys, getting a new microphone today. A nice microphone. So you guys can stop hearing me with my really shitty microphone. Today, I will be getting a very nice microphone that I bought myself for my birthday. And that microphone was bought by you guys, just so you guys know. Like, thank you so much. Like, your super chats, your donations, your memberships have made it so that way I have lights in here. It's made it so I have, a new microphone coming, like it paid for part of my camera. So like, I'm really thankful to you guys. Thank you so much for everything. I appreciate you guys. And you guys bought me the birthday present of a new microphone, just so you guys know. That's what the money's for. So thank you very much. New video's doing really well. 15K views last I checked on Antonio Brown's CTE ass. Speaking of CTE, the fucking poster boy for CTE.
Train by day, Joe Rogan podcast by night, all day.
All right, here we go.
All right, we're rolling. Good to see you, sir. Here we go. One of the things I wanted to talk to you about, I wanted to play this, but we decided we shouldn't play it because
I was wondering if Joe Rogan would smoke or drink while Donald Trump is there, because famously Donald Trump claims he doesn't smoke or drink. He just does the geriatric drugs, right? And it looks like right off the bat, I'm going to guess that Joe Rogan's probably hopped up on TRT and Red Bull. That's what I'm guessing for this one.
As it could get copyright strike, and we don't want to get the episode. We don't want anybody to have any sort of a way to get it down.
Sure.
But it was the episode of you when you were on The View, and I think it was 2015 or 2006, like when you were running for president.
Right.
And you got introduced as our friend Donald Trump.
That's right.
Whoopi Goldberg gives you a big hug and a kiss. Joy.
Yeah, I'm already gonna like have an issue with this because Joe knows better, or maybe he doesn't. You know, Joe Rogan has told us he's an idiot over and over and over again. We all have that friend. We all have that friend that we know is an asshole, and we all have that friend that when we go to take him to parties, people are like, no, not Brian. And you're like, no, Brian's cool. And they're like, no, Brian's going to take his shirt off and try and fight somebody. And then the cops are going to come. And then the party's going to get broken up. And you're like, yeah, but, you know, I've known Brian since he was 6, dude. He really is a good dude. This is a talking point that Trump supporters have been bandying about lately. Oh, well, you used to like him and now you don't. Well, it turns out, once you find out that Brian sexually assaulted a woman, you kind of go, ooh, shit. Turns out that if Brian was ever elected president and then, you know, attempted to commit treason to overthrow the government, that will change your point of view on a person. So I already know this talking point. I know where he's about to go with this question, and I'm just going to say right ahead of time. First of all, Donald Trump isn't going to answer this well. He's just going to ramble and say something stupid. But Joe Rogan is an idiot if he can't see that, yeah, 8 years ago, before Donald Trump had ran for president and then tried to overthrow the government, there were people that were still like, you know what, like, he's kind of an idiot, he's kind of an asshole, but he is my friend. And now they're like, nah, dog, I don't want this guy to be president. Like, I don't want Brian to be president. It's such a dishonest or disingenuous fucking question.
Boy, Behar gives you a big hug. Barbara Walters gives you a big hug. They all loved you. They were all talking about how you're you might be conservative in your financial positions, but you're very liberal socially. They were talking about you in such a favorable light. The audience was cheering. And then you actually started winning in the polls, and then the machine started working towards you.
Yeah.
But there's
yeah, see, there's the conspiracy theory comes through already. Like, the machine started working. Like, this is my problem with conspiracy theorists, and this is what drives me nuts about most conversations with them, is nothing can ever be as simple as, well, yeah, the moment the tape came out where it said, you know, he feels like he can sexually assault women, you know, like, yeah, S.A. women, you know, like, that will change a person's point of view. It doesn't have to be some kind of weird conspiracy where it's like, oh, as soon as he started running for president, all of a sudden Whoopi Goldberg didn't like him. It's because they're part of the machine. It's like, well, no. When you literally play a tape where you say, sometimes I need a Tic Tac because I can't help myself. I just kissed him. And then when I move in, I grab them. I grab them because I can, because they want me to, because they like it. That will definitely change a person's point of view on a person. It doesn't need to be some type of conspiracy. It's just that fucking simple. And this is what drives me nuts about people like Joe Rogan. It has to be deeper than that. It has to be crazier than that. No. People don't like it when you essay women, specifically women.
Probably no one in history that I've ever seen that's been attacked the way you've been attacked, and the way they've done it so coordinated and systematically. When you see those same people in the past, very favorable to you, like Oprah, when you were on Oprah's show,
I don't doubt
she was
that
encouraging you.
Last week I did one of her last shows. I think maybe Thursday or Friday. It was a big deal being on Oprah's show, the last one. And I was like one of the last shows in that final week. And I said, boy, we've come a long way since that.
What was it like?
The concept, it was really like two different lives. You know, I had a very wonderful life, but I wanted to do this. The Apprentice was still going very strong.
No, see, this is where like Joe Rogan doesn't know anything about what he's talking about. Like he's not gonna call him out on any of this stuff. No, The Apprentice wasn't going strong. There are so many people within the workings of The Apprentice that were saying that it was not going strong, that it was going off a fucking cliff. Look, this is what I dislike about all these conversations. Just be real. Just be real. Barack Obama made fun of Donald Trump at a dinner. Donald Trump took that offensively because that's how Donald Trump is. Donald Trump is an egomaniac. He's a narcissist. It's just who he is. He took that offensively. His reality TV show was starting to find the end of its shelf life. He wanted to still be relevant because his ego finds it necessary to still be relevant. And he decided to run for president, as he had been talking since, I think it was like 2009, with people about doing this. I mean, he had met with Putin years before this. Obviously, he had been working with Putin since like the 90s. But there are so many indicators that Donald Trump ran for two reasons. One, his ego. His ego got hurt from the Barack Obama questions or the jokes. And two, because he was seeking a way to stay relevant and keep his business afloat. It was not because he wanted to save the country. It wasn't because Donald Trump cares about you. He's literally shown from the very beginning that he doesn't care about anybody but himself or the people that can fund him, and that is rich billionaires.
We had 12 seasons, and
Shut
we
up,
had
Bob.
actually 14 seasons, 12 years over. They had a couple.
Yeah, I
They
know.
canceled The Apprentice when you were running for president,
Robert.
correct?
No, they had Arnold Schwarzenegger do it. I was involved in that, and I had enough of it, and we did great. It was doing great, but they wanted me to stay. They all came
So straight up, I gotta give Joe Rogan some credit there. He did say they canceled the show. So good job. Like that's fair. That's fair.
to see me. They said, we're going to give you a contract. They wanted to extend my contract. Mark Burnett is a great guy.
Yeah, see, here we go. Like he's not gonna like he just doesn't like he doesn't ever honestly answer a question. Like all he has to say is like, yeah, they canceled the show, like had a good run. It was great. It did good. None of that is actually wrong. The reality show had great ratings. He could just say that, but he can't. Because he can't answer anything. He's a fucking compulsive liar.
Then they wanted to extend the contract. Mark said, you're crazy. Don't run. No. Nobody gives up prime time, they said. It's one of those little things, which is probably true.
Nobody gives up prime time, though, for being president?
For running against 20 some odd people, it turned out to be 18 professional people, mostly politicians. They said, who would do this? I mean, it's a long shot. Actually, the heads of NBC came over, the Paul Telegny, all the top people came over to see me, try and talk me out of it because they wanted to have me extend. The Apprentice was doing well. So it was 14 seasons. It was 12 years. We had 2 seasons where we had a double, which rarely happens. It was just a hot show. And I
see, this is what happens. So people over-explain answers when they're lying. Like, this is exactly what a person does when they know they're being dishonest. He's over-explaining it. It's because he knows he's fucking lying about it. But
said, I want to do this. What happened is previously, like 3 years, 4 years before that, they did a poll. They had Mitt Romney, and somehow they put me in a poll, and I blew everybody away. I blew him away, which isn't.
It wasn't somehow he got put in a poll. He literally had pollsters that were doing this for years before he ran for election. There's a website. I can't remember what the dude's name. Who was it? It was one of. There's so many Trump cronies that it's hard to keep up with which one did what. But one of them ran, I think it was in 2012 or maybe it was 2015, but a website that polled to see how many people would be interested in Donald Trump running for president. Once again, it's just not a necessary lie. Like, you can understand when people like white lie, like they don't remember something, they say they exaggerate something, things like that. Like you can kind of understand, even in politics, you can understand when somebody tries to bullshit people. Like, it's not something that I applaud, but it's definitely something that's, it happens. That there's no reason to lie about why you were involved in the polls. Just say, we did some polls. They said, yeah, you have a pretty good chance to run for president and win it. And I was like, fuck yeah, let's do it. Like, it's so crazy.
That hard, frankly. But I blew everybody away, and I said, that's interesting, because I never really gave it that much real thought. I thought about it, but never real thought. But I saw these polls were very good. And so I was thinking about doing it then, but I had a contract with The Apprentice. Plus, I was building 2 big buildings at the time, and I wanted to make sure they got finished up properly. And it was one of those things. The kids were just sort of getting involved. They're very capable kids, but they were getting involved early on. So I did that. I got them done. I had some very good successes. And I came on, and then I thought about it for the next one after the Romney disaster. And I ran and I won against Hillary. And it was quite an experience. But it was a different life because you're right, The View. I was on The View many, many times. And
Jesus Christ.
They loved me.
Just the way people would talk.
So
I mean,
hard.
even if people had criticisms about you, people that didn't like you, there was always feuds and stuff like that. But the reality was the thing turned on you.
No, see, the reality was this is always happening with other people behind the scenes. For 30 years, Donald Trump had over 4,000 lawsuits against him. Donald Trump didn't pay workers. Donald Trump sued contractors. Donald Trump committed fraud and scams against people that either wanted to join up in his university or they bought his grifting bullshit, like his wine, his steaks, his water. Like, this is a bit of sane washing for Donald Trump. You know, it's like, yeah, it just seems like all of a sudden everybody turned on you. Donald Trump has always been a polarizing figure. Donald Trump has always been a person that you either loved or hated. And you know, you can very much compare him to a Vince McMahon. When you watch the Vince McMahon documentary, all of those wrestlers say, oh, Vince McMahon was like a father to me. Oh, Vince McMahon was like, I've never seen him actually do these things that people say that he's done to women. Oh, like, that's just not the Vince McMahon I know. And there's plenty of people in Donald Trump's camp before he ran for president that were like that. And some of those people, just like what happened with Vince McMahon, there's certain wrestlers that after the allegations came out about him were like, yo, like, I can't support that. It doesn't matter whether or not I looked up to him as a father or he helped me become who I am. It's very important for me to speak honestly about this, and I'm going to come out and tell you that, like, yo, if he did those things, that's bad. That's not a flip. They didn't flip on Vince McMahon, and they didn't flip on Donald Trump. There's nothing weird about saying that when somebody decides to run for office, that your political opponents will dig for every skeleton in your closet and put it out front for everybody to see. That is literally what happens in any political race, and that's what happened to Donald Trump. There's nothing weird about people saying, like, I don't support that, even if I supported him before this.
When they found out that you were going to be president, it was very coordinated, and some people are catching on to that now. There's a lot of people that were longtime Democrats, like Elon and Bill Ackman and all these different, very intelligent people.
And they support me now. Bill Ackman
supports
me. He's been very supportive, too.
This is what I wanted to ask you.
Yeah, Bill Ackman, who supported the black insurrectionist tweet that turned out to be untrue about Kamala's debate and how she had received the questions on stuff. This is Bill Ackman. And yeah, Bill Ackman, a lot of these people used to be lefties. I've gone over this before. You know, I'm still in the midst of writing the book, The Makings of MAGA, you know, conspiracy illness, how the, conspiratorial left and the hard right became MAGA. And that is true, that tons of people on the left became MAGA supporters, people that were disenfranchised because of what happened with Bernie, all the anti-vaccine hippies, all the anti-big government hippies, all of them went over to MAGA because it's a safe space for them. But in the end, Bill Ackman supported the black insurrectionist tweet that there was a whistleblower. It turns out that black insurrectionist account, which later shared a message that supposedly came that said that Tim Walz had harmed his son and other children at his school, and then they literally posted a video of a person that claimed to be one of Tim Walz's students, that it turned out that person was then contacted in Hawaii and was like, that's not fucking me, bro. What the fuck? And, you know, it's now coming out that this account is actually ran by, you guessed it, a white a scam artist, a white fraudster, because these are the type of people that are so prevalent in Donald Trump's camps. grifters and scam artists are a dime a dozen in the Trump camps. And so when you say, well, Bill Ackman supports him, well, Bill Ackman is fucking nuts too. All of these people have dove off the deep end of conspiracy theory and aren't coming back. Money doesn't solve that problem. Money doesn't make you smarter. Money doesn't make you less conspiratorial. Money actually makes you more protective of those things. And that's what you're seeing with people like Bill Ackman. Oh, Bill Ackman supports me. Bill Ackman also supported Robert Menendez and fucking Eric Adams, two people that are currently on trial on the left for being corrupt.
What was it like when you actually got in? Because nobody really can prepare you for that. When you're running for president, you don't really know what it's going to be like when you actually get into office. What did you think it was going to be like?
In office or when I decided to run?
So when you got in.
When I was in. So when I was in and won and was in the White House, essentially. Yes. Well, first of all, it was very surreal.
I would imagine.
It's very interesting. When I got shot, it wasn't surreal. That should have been surreal.
Oh,
when I was laying on the ground, I knew exactly what was going on. I knew exactly
No,
where I
you
was
didn't.
hit. They were saying you were
No, you
hit
didn't.
all over the place because there was so
No,
much
you
blood
didn't.
from the ear. You would know that better than anyone. When they get the ear torn up.
Ears bleed a lot,
They
yeah.
bleed. Anyway, so, and I was thinking the other day,
All right, strongest moment of the conversation so far. Donald Trump talking about ear bleeding and Joe Rogan going, ears bleed a lot. That's true. Best part of the conversation so far.
when that happened, I really knew where I was. I knew exactly what happened. I said I wasn't hit anywhere else. With the presidency, it was a very surreal experience. Okay,
Like, what's day one like? You win.
Yeah,
You get inaugurated. Holy shit, I'm the president.
Yeah,
I think that's probably the most honest moment for him too. Like him admitting that was like a surreal moment for him. Like that's probably the most honest thing that Donald Trump has ever said.
That's what happened. So I'm driving down Pennsylvania Avenue. I just built a building on Pennsylvania. You know, the hotel, the old post office it was. We called it Trump National Hotel. And we sold it to the
Was he
Waldorf
about saying
Astoria.
Trump National
And it
Post
was
Office?
a wonderful thing. But I'm driving down. I'm passing the hotel. You've never seen so many motorcycles, police, military. You know, it was a major thing. I got off really.
And this, if you don't know why Trump wants to be president again, you know, other than the fact that he's running from a potential prison sentence, this should tell you right here exactly why Donald Trump wanted to be president again. He's talking about the surrealness of the office, the number of police officers, military. This is all stature. This is the most important thing to Donald Trump. Donald Trump doesn't care about America. Donald Trump doesn't care about people. Donald Trump cares about people loving him, providing him with the military to support him, providing him with all the police officers and security and Secret Service. This is what appeals to Donald Trump. It's not being the president of the United States in the manner of being a sacrifice for the people. No, it's in him knowing that other people know exactly how important and powerful he is. What's up, Spikin? Spikin says, hello, not sure I can sit through this interview, but I'll stick around as long as I can. I'm thankful to any of you guys that watch this with me. I know it's not your cup of tea, so thank you for being here. I appreciate you guys. If you guys want to go watch something that's maybe a little more your speed, where I'm making fun of the MAGA morons, you can go watch the Antonio Brown video, which is doing really well right now, and that's a really funny video. So I know this is a little divergence from me just mocking and making fun of people, but I wanted to watch the bullshit and dissect it as I see it.
The first time I used Air Force One, landed, and we're coming down, and it was very beautiful. I mean, it was incredible. And we're going down Pennsylvania Avenue in the opposite direction. You know, normally you're used to going one way, and all of a sudden you're going the other way. The street was loaded up, and I wanted to go out, and I wanted to wave to everybody, but that wasn't smart. You know, the kid's a little bit dangerous, right? I mean, when you watch like Kennedy and some others, right? But I really felt, I don't know, the love was so crazy. And so I did get out of the car for a brief, just for a very short walk. I thought it was very important to do. And Melania got out with her beautiful dress on that became sort of a staple. It was, people loved it. And
I just started.
Barron and we're walking down the street. But where it really got amazing. We get to the White House, and now it's a little bit before dark, beautiful. And we went up to the president's quarters. They call them the presidential quarters. And I'm standing in this.
Like I said, you should pay attention to like how important this is to him. Like this is what kind of makes MAGA feel like that he's the guy, you know, like because they see this, they hear this type of thing, and they think, wow, he really cares about this. But what they don't understand is he doesn't care about like the accountability. He doesn't care about taking on the mantle of being the president of the United States. He doesn't care about like all the presidents that came before him. You know that because of how much he demeans all the presidents that came before him. This is only important to him. The reason that he's like, you know, giving such a detailed story about like him going and like the whole like first day and all that stuff is because this was, like I said, a seminal moment for him. This is his evidence that he's somebody. This is to him the most important moment in his life because it makes everybody else know that he's important. Something that he's been trying to prove to people his entire life through his business dealings, being shady, fucking people over, doing whatever it takes. It was all building towards trying to make people see him as being somebody important. And that's actually really important to a lot of people. But it's not the type of person that you want in the office. What you want as a president is somebody that gets into office, not for them, but for you. That's the point. You want a person that gets into office and understands how heavy the mantle is to be in the leadership of one of the greatest countries in the world, a country that many other countries look towards and look to for you know, leadership and, you know, role model, to be a role model. And that is the problem with what he's saying here, is that this is so important to him. It's so important to him. He remembers these things in such great detail. It's not important to you. It's important to the United States of America. It's important to the people. It's the citizens that matter. Not your accomplishments, but theirs.
Beautiful hallway. You know, it's funny. Nobody ever talks about the White House as being beautiful inside. You know, you think it's going to be, everything's going to be all metal doors and stuff. It's not. It's so beautiful. I made my money largely on luxury. The hallway is like 25 feet wide. The ceiling heights are, you know, it's so beautiful. But I was standing there, and I said to the guys, I want to see the Lincoln bedroom. I had never seen the Lincoln bedroom. I'd heard about the Lincoln bedroom. And I was standing with my wife. I said, do you believe it? This is the Lincoln bedroom. I mean, it was like, it was.
Like I said, pay attention to what he's saying. This is materialism. There's nothing in this about being like overwhelmed by the responsibility of having the authority of becoming the president of the United States. It's, I wanted to see the Lincoln bedroom. Like, oh, the building, it's I make luxury, and I can tell you, like, this is super luxury. Like, first of all, Donald Trump's idea of decorating is super fucking gaudy, okay, to start with. That's just a personal opinion. But, like, this is actually really important for people to understand. Like, you should pay attention to the fact that it's not, nothing is about the people. Everything is about Donald Trump's experience.
It's amazing because it's, look, if you love the country, but here you're, the Lincoln bedroom. And the bed, you know, he was very tall. He was 6'6", which then would be like Barron.
Right.
Would be like Barron Trump. He's 6'9". But 6'6", he was very tall. Then on top of that, he wore...
There it is.
He wore that. Yeah, there it is. It's a long bed, elongated bed. And because people were shorter than... You see some of the chairs are very, very low to the ground, actually.
I once did a furniture install at UCLA, and we did a Wilt Chamberlain's college dorm, and that was insane. The doorways were all built for Wilt Chamberlain. The bathtub was super long. It was crazy looking. I bet Lincoln's bedroom actually is pretty fucking cool.
But he had the long bed, and they had... He
talks like a narcissist
You
tourist.
had the Gettysburg
exactly,
Address right on that, right under that. You can't see it here, but right there, the original version of the Gettysburg Address. And this is the original, and I'm looking, and I just...
Outer, I don't know if you're talking to me. So if anybody's trying to talk to me, you have to at Progressive Matter, because I don't know when you guys are talking to me or when you're talking to chat. But something that you just said is something that I talk about. And if you're here at the beginning of the show, you might have heard it. But if you weren't, I'll say it again. Outer Drive says, are we thinking that Trump is a mastermind pulling all the strings to dismantle democracy all on his own? What are we even talking about? No, that's not the point of this show. Maybe you're new here. I don't know. I don't know when you subscribed. That's not what we talk about here. What we talk about here is the understanding that Donald Trump is a useful idiot. Donald Trump is a sideshow. Donald Trump is a clown. Donald Trump is for the most part, the freak show. He is what's going to get the populist vote. He's the foot in the door for the religious right. Because when you talk about things like Project 2025, you actually realize that Donald Trump isn't the main vehicle for something like Project 2025. Do they know that there's a potential that on day one that they can push through all this, like these executive orders and stuff, because Donald Trump won't read them thoroughly and he'll just sign whatever? Most likely, yeah. I actually think that there's a wild card there, that Donald Trump recognizes something in it that me or you wouldn't give a shit about, but he doesn't like because it hurts his feelings, and he might not sign a couple of them. No, I've said this before. I think that the main possibility, and this is a bit conspiratorial because I have nothing more than anecdotal evidence, but I believe that the Republican Party, or specifically the Heritage Foundation, the people who wrote Project 2025 and the people behind that, the people that helped get Conant into the Supreme Court, the people that helped get Kavanaugh into the Supreme Court, Leo, whatever his name is, Leo Leonardo or whatever his name is, those people, Peter Thiel, Elon Musk, all of those people are the true people that are behind the scenes pulling the strings. And I actually think that when Donald Trump is elected, if there is a blue Congress, they're obviously going to try to use Article 14, Section 3 to impeach him. And I think that Republicans actually want that to happen. I would not be surprised that if there is not a blue House and Senate, that Donald Trump actually gets impeached when elected, because Republicans will use the excuse that they are doing what's right for country and not for party, and they will vote with Democrats to impeach Donald Trump because they don't want Donald Trump as the president of the United States. They want J.D. Vance as the president of the United States. That is my personal opinion. Like I said, that is in no way verifiable through any factual information. It's all just I think and I feel statements. But no, at no point have I ever sat here and said that Donald Trump is the threat to democracy that I think everybody else does. I think Donald Trump is a threat to democracy in the way of that he could ruin our relationships with our foreign allies. I think Donald Trump is a threat to the United States economy because of his poor economic ideals. But for the most part, if Donald Trump gets reelected, I think that the plan for conservatives is to use Donald Trump's foot in the door to get a much more zealotous, palatable presidential candidate in through the door. People like Mike Johnson are much scarier than Donald Trump is. People like J.D. Vance are much scarier than Donald Trump is. Donald Trump is a useful idiot. So I hope that explains my point of view.
Looked around, I said, do you believe this? Because I was never a politician. First of all, even if you were a politician, but I was never a politician. I sort of just started, right?
Right.
And all of a sudden I'm standing in the White House. And it was very, very surreal. That room was so beautiful to me, much more beautiful than it actually is. You know, to me, when I looked at the
Gonna be honest, this conversation is kind of boring.
bed, and the bed, you could see it was a little bit longer, had to be a little bit longer. He lost his son, and they suffered. The two of them suffered from.
Do you guys care if I put this on like 1.25 or something? Tell me if this is too much for you guys, because like I don't mind listening to it, but I know for some people they can't take this. But this portion of the conversation is a little bit boring.
Melancholia. They didn't call it depression. They called it melancholia, and they suffered from it. He was a very depressed guy, and she was a very depressed woman, more so than him. And on top of that, they lost their son, whose name was Ted. And it was just seeing it in the little pictures, a little tiny picture. I mean, you can't see the details there. Little tiny, everything the way it was. A little tiny picture of Ted.
Did they make the aliens?
Who he lost.
Good.
And it was
good.
devastating.
Good.
And he was, he was, look, he was in a war. He was having a hard time because he couldn't.
Jesus fuck. Bro! I know that, like, MAGA don't know a lot about history, but, like, I don't need all this, dog. Fucking get on with the goddamn... Where are we going?
Couldn't beat Robert E. Lee. Robert E. Lee won like 13 battles in a row. And he was
It's
getting
almost
like a phobia,
Shabib.
like a fighter. You know, a lot about the fight stuff. But, like, I went to a UFC
Yeah,
fight.
it's the beginning, Grumpy.
And
yeah.
it was a champion who was 14-1 about a year ago. You would know the names. 14-1. And the only guy he lost to was this one guy. But the guy that he was fighting was like almost just an average fighter. Lost numerous times, but he beat this one guy. So I said, okay.
I really don't know who you're talking about. I'm trying to.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I will figure it out.
Okay.
But about a year ago. But the point is that he lost. He wasn't nearly the fighter as the one. But the one who was not nearly the fighter had beaten. He's the only guy that beat the champ like 5 years before. And I said, I'll take the guy that won the other fight. And that's what happened. He beat him a second time.
Sometimes
Lincoln,
psychological advantages.
Yeah, what is this crazy thing? Lincoln had I don't know, I've never read this. I heard it from people in the White House who really understand what was going on with the whole life of the White House. But Lincoln had
Wait, what? He said, I've never read this, but I heard this from people in the White House that really know about the White House, what's going on. What the fuck does that mean?
the yips about, in a way,
Oh, God.
as the golfers would say. He had a
Jesus
phobia
Christ.
about Robert E. Lee. He said, I can't beat Robert, because Robert E. Lee won many battles in a row. He was just beating the hell out of him. You know, they tried to get Robert E. Lee to be on.
Hold on. Oh, God, he's going to get into the fucking Civil War. Dude, I'm about to pull the U.S. Grant book out. Like, nah, dude. Look, Robert E. Lee did win some battles. He did do good. But U.S. Grant fucking worked his ass.
In the North, but he said, no, I have to be with my state. You know, and the state was his whole thing, and he went to the South. And he was, I've had generals tell me, we have some great generals, the real generals, not the ones you see on television, the ones that beat ISIS.
Dude, not Mark Milley? Not General Mad Dog Mattis? None of the ones that said bad things about him. Like, it literally the highest offices in the military. Those aren't good generals, guys, because they said bad things about Donald Trump. This is what makes it.
We defeated ISIS in record time. It was supposed to take years, and we did it in a matter of weeks. These are great generals. These are tough guys. These are not woke guys. But their favorite general.
They're not woke guys. Oh, Rogan's like, now you're talking my language.
In terms of genius, was Robert E. Lee.
In terms of strategy, you mean?
Strategically. He took a war that should have been over in a few days, and it was, years of hell.
No, dude, do you not understand a single thing about the Civil War? It should have been over in a few days? Are you fucking kidding me? U.S. Grant, literally to this day, gets a lot of fucking bad publicity because the amount of soldiers that the North lost. But the realization was that the Confederacy wanted to stretch the war out as long as possible because they knew that the American people would grow tired of killing each other. They knew that, like, overall the sentiment in the North wasn't 100% anti-slavery. And they knew that the longer the war went on, the more the chance that the North would capitulate. Yeah, the North had really large numbers, but Jesus Christ, have you seen any engagement over the past 2 decades where a smaller force fights against a larger force? Look at the war in Ukraine right now. Forget the fact that America is sending money over there. Even without that, they didn't roll over them in 2 days. They couldn't. They couldn't do that now with the technology we have now. Geez, I hate when I hear people that know shit about fucking military engagements talk about it. It drives me up a goddamn wall.
Hell, a vicious war.
It drives me up a wall.
So here I am standing there, and again, I had never really done this before. I ran a number of months before I won. I probably, I guess if you max it out, it would be a year, something like that. So I had never run for office. And I did well. I mean, I went into debates. We had 18 people, including me, and then slowly but surely they started to disappear. We had debates, good debates.
Everyone's aware of all this stuff. What I want to get to.
Thank you. Fuck. Thank you, Joe Rogan. God damn it. Like, I'm like, bro, this is 13 minutes in. 13 minutes of this shit. Oh my God. What's up, Jeannie?
It was like, what was the experience once you got inside?
It
like,
was just
what did you think it was going to be like in terms of like your ability to govern?
Yeah.
Like, this is your first experience governing anything. You never been a governor. You never been a mayor.
Private, yeah,
right.
private stuff.
Business.
Yeah.
But now all of a sudden you're inside the White House.
The biggest thing was just that first moment of being in this hallowed. It was really a hallowed place to me. It was surreal. It was beyond. To me, that was.
Bro, he's going back. He just told him. We already know. He's like, let me repeat the shit I just said.
Experience. It was a surreal experience, and then
oh
with
my
time,
God,
that wears off. With time, it becomes your place where you stay. And
that's a good one. Jeannie.
I was doing a lot of. I had two things that I really focused on: governing the country and survival. Because from the moment I won,
he said survival. Donald Trump was concentrating on golf and making statements about other countries that could get us in a lot of trouble with our allies. Survival? If that's his idea of trying to survive, somebody needs to talk to this dude about, like, what survival is. Oh, my God. What's happening, Catherine? Catherine says, does it drive you up a big, beautiful wall that Mexico paid for, but not as beautiful as Lincoln's bedroom for his golf course draw? Yes, it does. Yes.
Before I got to office, all of a sudden, they came down. I mean, nobody has ever.
I focus on breathing daily.
And you see that. I mean, you see where in the Washington Post very early on, they said, well, now the impeachment stuff starts. And it did. I mean, it literally started from the beginning. So I had survival and run the nation. I had a combination. Most people don't have the survival. They get in.
Are you still stuffing your kangaroo hoodie pockets?
I needed a break.
Meet the new improved bearskin tactical hoodie.
What did you expect, though, in terms of, like, once you got inside, you had to appoint all these people? Yeah. Like, how many appointments did you have to make?
Well, you have actually 10,000 appointments. Now, they're different. You have big ones, and then they appoint 100 people and 200 people. But the president really is...
And this is where I will make this point when I talk about whether or not Donald Trump is a threat to democracy. He says 10,000, but what he wants to do when he's reelected, if reelected, is he wants to replace something like 30,000 people. He wants to use Schedule F. And when people say, oh, no, like Donald Trump doesn't have anything to do with Project 2025, oh, like you guys are making fun of him, but he has his own agenda. First of all, Agenda 47 is very close to Project 2025 in the first place. But even if I gave you grace and said, yeah, for sure, okay, that's the Heritage Foundation's plan, which I don't completely believe. I believe Donald Trump knows about Project 2025. I believe Donald Trump is okay with Project 2025 as long as he gets to take credit for the shit that gets done. But the one thing that you cannot deny is Donald Trump pushed through Schedule F on his way out the door in 2020, and that 2021, and that he wants to use Schedule F, if reelected, to eviscerate the administrative wing of the government and replace them with people that have applied through YouTube. He also would like to put RFK as the head of the CIA, which is probably the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. And I have been watching Trump on YouTube for 2 years, so that's a really high bar. He also wants to dismantle the FBI during a time where it is one of the least opportune times to do something like get rid of our intelligence agencies, as we literally enter the age of intelligence, as we literally enter the age of artificial intelligence, supercomputers, super high-end spying, espionage. Like, this is a time where, like, dismantling the FBI and putting in your own cronies because they'll listen to you is like the worst case scenario for America. We are already like down 500-1 against China when it comes to cyber warfare because our fucking constituency, our voters, are too goddamn stupid to recognize that right now, if we don't invest in our intelligence agencies, that we are going to eventually just be China and Russia's puppet because they are going to be in control of your bank account, your social media, and apparently your goddamn brain. The moment that fucking Elon puts chips in your dumbass brains and China's like, thanks for doing that. We will now be piping the propaganda straight into your dome. That's actually what's scary about Donald Trump. Schedule F, the evisceration of the administrative wing of the government and the dismantling of our intelligence agencies will be the downfall of American society.
Is involved with approximately 10,000 appointments. So you'll appoint a Secretary of State, and he or she will appoint a lot of people. So it's a lot. But in terms of major ones, you probably have like 100, but they're big ones.
RFK is a grifter too.
Treasury, state, military.
And how did you know?
Heavy on that grift as well.
Well, I didn't. I had no experience. You have to understand. Joe.
So
I was there 17 times in Washington, and I never stayed over. According to the press, which I think is probably right, over the years, I was only there 17 times. I never stayed over. So now I'm sitting there, I'm saying, this place is gorgeous, but, I don't know anybody. It's like you go to certain areas, and other areas, they may be great. Washington was great. Washington's not so great right now. We got to fix it. We got to make it better. A very dangerous place, very badly maintained place. We're going to make it great. We're going to make it better. We're going to bring it back. But I wasn't a Washington guy. I was a New York guy. I was a New York builder, and I built buildings in New York, and I knew that whole world, but I didn't know the Washington world too well. And all of a sudden, you're supposed to...
way less than 10%, Tabula. China has $886 billion, give or take a few $billion of our debt. Our debt is 35.4-ish trillion, give or take a few $1 trillion. I think what is the percentage on that? So that would be 3.5 trillion would be 10%. So that's like 3%. They own like 3% of our debt. I'm not afraid of China as far as that kind of stuff goes. I'm afraid of China as far as our voters go. The American populace is what worries me about China, because the amount of disinformation and misinformation that people right now willingly spread amongst the populace to each other. If you have not watched the movie Leave the World Behind, please go watch that movie. Go watch Leave the World Behind, because that is the future of warfare. Warfare is not going to be boots on the ground. It's not going to be airplanes flying over America dropping napalm. Warfare is going to be misinformation and disinformation being spread amongst the populace by foreign countries, foreign adversaries. And it's going to be infiltration of infrastructure, the defeat of infrastructure within America, because you turn the electricity off for 2 weeks and Americans will literally start gutting each other in the streets. That is the future of warfare. The future of warfare is to get other countries so discombobulated, so misinformed, that they turn on their own people. Then you turn off the power, you turn off the internet, you turn off communications, and you stand back and allow them to kill themselves. And then you come in and you drop a bomb or two and you take over the government. We have it going on with our own government right now when you have places like the KKK, or I'm sorry, people like the KKK that have literal infrastructure set up to this day. If you don't believe me, read Joe Moore's book, Broken Badges and White Robes, where he discusses how the KKK has infrastructure set up to take over for the U.S. government. If a civil war does pop off, they have the means currently to infiltrate our government, set up infrastructure that already exists within the Ku Klux Klan, and take over our government to establish a white nationalist nation. That all sounds crazy, but it is the truth. This is where we're at. We are past the stage of Neanderthal militarism. It is no longer going to be wars in big countries like China and America. Instead, it's going to be wars like in the Cold War through proxy in places like Ukraine, Taiwan, Israel, places, like the Middle East, that's where the true wars are going to happen.
To be appointing top people. So,
what did you think it was going to be like? Versus, like, did you have any ideas of what it was going to be like, and what was different?
Well, I was always involved in politics, but usually from the standpoint of a donor.
Exactly.
I was a donor. I was a big donor. I gave money to politicians. I enjoyed politics.
Mostly Democrats, right?
Both, really, pretty much both. I have actually pictures of Ronald Reagan and me when I was very young.
You were a Democrat until like what year?
I was a Democrat. I could get you the exact, but the early 90s. The early 90s. I switched over eventually. Actually, they had a reform party. I was thinking about doing that for a little while, but then fortunately I didn't because it's very hard. It's a two-party system. And
Jesus
anytime
Christ,
you hear
just
third party,
say
I know
the
you
answer,
like RFK
bro.
Jr., and so do I. He's a fantastic guy.
I do, but I thought that
whole
being
thing
an
is very
independent
tough.
was nonsense.
It doesn't work. It doesn't work because even if you do great, you're not going to get Congress. In other words,
Right.
you need now to say, okay, now I'll get half of Congress.
Sorry,
They're gonna vote for
PJ.
you.
Thanks
So
for being
even
here
if you
for what
got
you
there,
did,
which is
PJ.
very
I
hard.
appreciate you.
And I know how you feel about Bobby, and I feel the same way, and he's now with us. But it doesn't. It's pure and simple. It's a two-party system.
Right.
And
But his very existence shows that it isn't. To be honest with you, Donald Trump isn't a conservative. Donald Trump isn't a conservative. Donald Trump isn't a Republican. Donald Trump is the actual rhino. He's a Republican in name only.
somebody, I won't mention his name, but somebody spent $250 million trying to get the nomination as a Reform Party candidate or whatever, and they got just nowhere. You get eaten. You just get eaten. The system eats you alive.
Right.
So it was really somebody that not only was new to Washington, but was new to politics. So in the office of the presidency, over the years, all
Jesus
those
Christ,
presidents,
bro.
you've had 92% were politicians and 8% were generals. General Eisenhower, General Washington, right? General George Washington, you had generals. So it's 8%, no admirals, 8% generals and 92% politicians. They're politicians and they go on. So they never had a business guy or they never had a guy that wasn't elected to an office. They were all like Ronald Reagan.
Yeah, I've made this argument before. It's because you don't take your car to get it fixed and go, okay, so here's this guy who has 30 years as a mechanic, ASE certified. But also there's Bill over here. And you know what? I'm tired of people trying to fix my car that are mechanics. So I'm going to let Bill do it. You don't go to a heart surgeon and go, this guy has 30 years of heart surgery. So, I would like him to do it, but I'm tired of heart surgeons being heart surgeons. So I'm going to have Bill do it. You don't go to a lawyer when you're on trial and go, I know you've been doing this for 30 years, but I want this dude off the street to do it. As much as I dislike specifically politicians in the history of the American government, and I'm big on my optimism of the future of the left and the Democratic Party, and potentially even the right if it gets its shit together, because of the diversity and because of the new generations that have different ideals and mentalities, that don't want to be, as involved in, creating chaos amongst, our global partners, and instead want to be friends with people. Like, we are in a place where we need somebody that knows what the fuck they're doing. Not somebody that's like, yeah, it's my first day on the job, and so that's what makes me qualified. That's a weird thing to say. And I get it. I know constituents forever. I was one of those people that was like, I want somebody that represents me. But you want people that represent you in local government. You want people that represent you in Congress, because those are the jobs where they get their feet wet and learn how to govern. You don't want somebody that has never done the job to be the president of the United States, or never been involved in politics or law or been in the military as the president of the United States. And the reason that you don't want that is because we ask too much of the president of the United States nowadays. We give too much power to the president of the United States nowadays. Before Franklin Pierce, the job was actually considered an administrative job, a job where you tell other people what to do. Now we consider the president of the United States to be this jack of all trades that's going to make negotiations with foreign countries, that's going to negotiate on our economy, that's going to negotiate, in putting people in place on the border, to make the border more secure. And the realization of that is that if you have a person that has no background in any one of those things, they're not going to do a good job. And even Donald Trump admitted at one point or another, he didn't know what he was doing in those first 4 years. Now, he's trying to convince you that his next 4 years are going to be different because he's figured it out. But there is no proof during those 4 years that Donald Trump figured out anything but how to have a harder slice on his golf swing.
He was a movie actor, but he became the governor of California for, I think, 2 terms, and then he ran. So you'd never had a thing like this. But in terms of me, and sometimes I use it as an excuse.
Coachella. What up,
I don't like having excuses, actually, but I use it as an excuse. I had to rely on people that I respected or liked, but that I didn't know that well because I didn't know them that well. Some of those people I campaigned against because, when you have 18 people, we had mostly politicians running in the...
Bro, he says the answer to his own question in his answer without saying it. He knew some of these people, but he did not know them well. When I interviewed Lindsay Prather, that was her exact point. She said she's a congressperson in North Carolina, and she said the Republicans have a supermajority in North Carolina. And what that tells you as a Democrat is that when you enter into something like that, where you have no chance of passing legislation, you have no chance of influencing laws, what you have to do is learn who within that supermajority are people that you could connect with to help get things done. And that's actually an important part of our government. And that's why it's really important for our presidents to have experience within the governmental system before they become presidents. Now, I know as a voter, like, that pisses you off because you've had so many presidents in the past that you feel like they haven't gotten anything done for you. But first of all, that's just not true, because when you actually look into legislation and how we progress as the United States of America, we have actually progressed pretty well since the 50s, since the 20s. There's a lot that has gotten done. When you talk about people like Theodore Roosevelt, who's like top 3 presidents of all time, tons got done. There are things, but we only remember the negatives. And so then what that does is it disillusions us to think that what we need is just this person that's just like us, the guy who works at McDonald's next to us. That's not saying that there isn't anybody down here with us that would do a good job as a president. It just means that somebody like Donald Trump, A, isn't anything like you, and B, isn't fit to do the job because he has no experience and no ability to do the things that are important to you as a citizen of the United States of America.
Election, running in the primaries.
Oh,
and
you
they got
saw
knocked
Lindsay?
out one by
Lindsay's
one, but I got to like some of them. Some of
Lindsay.
them I didn't like at all, and I don't like them now. And I'd rely on them, and I'd rely on other people. So all of a sudden, people would come in, I'd like to recommend so-and-so to be Secretary of State, and I'd have 3, 4 people recommend. One thing I can tell you, Joe, everybody wants the position.
Of course.
No, but sometimes I'll hear, a lot of people don't want to work with Trump because Trump is tough to work with, et cetera. Let me tell you, everybody wants to be any one of these positions. They die.
That's why so many people quit. Bro, you can't say that when half your administration quit and wrote books about how bad you were.
For it.
Of course.
Now, they don't want to be known.
Not even
there's
Democrats.
a particular guy
What's up,
in
Junior?
New York, primarily, very big, very successful, very strong, very political, although he's not a politician. He'd give anything to be Secretary of State, but if they ask him, no, I don't think I would do it. But in the meantime, begging for it, okay, begging. They all,
I believe you.
Everybody wants it.
But what I wanted to get
by the way,
to-
no matter what you do, but it's very dangerous to pick somebody outside.
Joe Rogan has met his match, dude. Dude, they gave Donald Trump all the Adderall before this interview. Joe Rogan has no chance. He's trying so hard. He's like, okay, so you've been rambling for 19 fucking minutes now, dude. I'm trying to get you to answer just this one really simple, non-controversial question. And Donald Trump can't do it. He can't do it.
Side
It's
of a
so
politician
funny.
because a politician's been basically vetted for years.
Right.
You pick a business guy,
Oh, man.
and they've never been vetted at all, and they're the head of a big company or something, but they've never been vetted. You know nothing about his personal life. You know nothing about
Right.
where he's been. When you put him in, it's a little bit dangerous because all of
Oh, you don't say. He's literally talking about himself. How does he not realize that he's literally talking about his exact position? What the fuck? Oh, what up, Ichabod?
all of a sudden they get checked up, and you hear things that you're saying, "Wow, this is not going to work out too well." So it's very dangerous. Picking people that are outside of politics is somewhat dangerous.
So you're kind of stuck in a.
For the love of God, just point out how hypocritical that is. Oh my God. This is why I can't. And I don't know, maybe like a lot of other people don't pay as much attention when people are talking as I do, but I pick apart the things people say, right? Like I'm thinking about what you're saying while you're saying it. And that's been it's been a superpower for me. My entire life. It's what's helped me get to where I am, in my career. My ability to communicate with people, my ability to like break down what they think and what they mean and where they're going with what they believe. That's all like been really super important to me. So maybe like I look way further into what people say than what other people do, but it really boggles my mind that somebody can sit here and listen to somebody like Donald Trump talk about these things and not see the inherent hypocrisy in the things that he says. It's crazy to me.
Position, we have to pick established people. And then the problem with established people is established people are already indoctrinated into the system.
And they're stiffs in many cases. They're survivors. I find that,
What do you mean by stiffs? When you say stiffs?
A stiff, they don't have nothing. They have nothing. Or they're smart and survive. One little thing. So there was...
No, Agoff's not shadow banned. Agoff's in... no, you everybody sees you. I wouldn't be able to see you. I can't see you if you're shadow banned.
The congressman years before I ran, and I was very close to him. And I needed a license on something, and he was very important in getting the license. But it was a little bit controversial, the license, this particular thing that was being licensed. But I was close to this guy and helped him and everything else. And I went to him, I said, I'd like to have your help. And he said, let me take a look at it. I said, ooh, that's not too good. But I really hope you can help. Anyway, he tapped me along for a long period of time and ultimately didn't do it. And I said, you are a stiff. You could have done this thing so easy, etc. But it was controversial. He was in Congress for many years, like 28 years. And, there's a reason when somebody's there for 28 years, you got to be sort of smart.
Right.
You have all the scandals. And I realized he was a survivor.
And so they never do anything controversial. They never take any chances or speak their opinion. It's outside of the... Yeah.
And yet...
Bro... Are you serious right now? The house has been an absolute fucking shit show for the last 6 years. Like, what are you talking about? They never say anything controversial or do any Donald Trump watches more political news than I do. I guarantee it. What are you?
I don't disrespect him for it. So I actually respected the guy more in a certain way. I said,
because he did survive.
You know what? He's been there for 28 years. And he made it through. A lot of people don't make it through.
It's a good way for non-exceptional people to survive.
Well, it is.
Yeah.
I mean, it certainly is.
So you're in there. You have 10,000 appointments you have to make. So you're getting advice from people. And at one point in time, did you have a moment in time where you realized, these are bad choices? Like, some of these people I shouldn't have had in there.
Oh, yeah. I think... So the one question that you'll ask me, that I think you'll ask me, that people seem to ask, and I always come up with the same answer.
Bro, he gave him the questions. He gave him the questions. I told you when somebody's dishonest, they start to super over-explain. He just said, you didn't give me the questions in 3 different ways. Bro, he gave him the questions. That was hilarious. That's pretty funny. And it's I don't even care. I don't it's so weird that people get worked up about the whole... I mean, I get it. It's you're contriving that this is an interview that was made up on the spot or whatever. No one does interviews like that. No, they're not going to do that. Just once again, admit he gave you
one point in time. Did you have a moment in time where you realized these are bad choices? Like, some of these people I shouldn't have had in there.
Oh yeah, I think so. The one question that you'll ask me, that I think you'll ask me, that people seem to ask, and I always come up with the same answer. The one mistake, because I had a lot of success, great economy, great everything. Everything was great. The military, we rebuilt it, biggest tax cuts in history, all this stuff. We had a great presidency. 3 Supreme Court justices. Most people get none. You pick them young. This way they're there for 50 years, right? So, even if a president is there for 8 years, oftentimes they never have a chance. I had 3. It was sort of...
Nah, redonk. You've watched a million Joe Rogan podcasts. There's no fucking way you think this is an average Joe Rogan question. These are average Joe Rogan questions. There's no way. Yeah, you can say that that's the point. That's the reason that Trump would agree to go on it, is because people go, no, bro, Joe only asks the good questions. No, bro, Joe doesn't sacrifice. Joe does. Guarantee you. Why do you think there's no smoke in this room right now? Why do you think he's not fucking pounding beers right now? It's because right now, Joe Rogan is under a set of rules that Joe Rogan was never under in any other interview he has ever given. ever. He's literally asking questions that he's trying. He's not. This isn't like completely scripted or anything. It's a 3-hour conversation. I'm sure it's just he's probably got boundaries on him as far as like where the topics are allowed to go. That nobody answers that in that way. No one says like, here's a question I know that you're going to ask me. I mean, people always ask me. I mean, for the most part, lots of people ask me this question. He's literally noticing that he's saying something out loud he's not supposed to be saying. And that's probably a huge trigger for him because he accuses other people of getting the questions before podcasts, which, like I said, is weird in the first place. Nobody fucking cares. I don't care if Joe Rogan was told, hey, stay away from these topics. Hey, don't do this. It's just being disingenuous. That's the only part that I don't like. I don't like when people are dishonest about that kind of stuff. Like, just admit it. Just say, like, there's certain topics that Donald Trump doesn't like to talk about. There's certain topics that he said, hey, I'd like to avoid these topics. I'm totally fine with that. I don't give a shit. But, like, I do think, yeah, bullshit, Redonk. They did it out of respect.
I will say that it always comes back to the same answer.
They
the biggest
had
mistake
to.
I made was I picked some people. I picked some great people, you know, but you don't think about that. I picked some people that I shouldn't have.
Who? Somebody tell me. This is like when you ask a Trump supporter. Ask a Trump supporter this question, and they can never answer it. Name 3 policies that Donald Trump did, that Donald Trump was a part of, that you like. They can't even name one. They can't name one policy, all right? Like, dude, come on.
I picked a few people that I shouldn't have picked. And
like just ask him. Name 3 people that you picked that were good people. Bro's going to say Rudy Giuliani, John Eastman, and like Kenneth Chesbrough. It's going to be all his lawyers that stuck with him.
Neocons?
Yeah, neocons, or bad people, or disloyal people, or
people that were just
people
bad,
that were into the
people
that
bad advice.
Yeah, I mean, you're reading about him a little bit today. A guy like Kelly, who was a bully, but a weak person. You know more about bullies than anybody probably around because you deal in a certain sport where the bullies are exposed very quickly.
Yeah.
But he's bad. Bolton was an idiot, but he was great for me because I'd go in with a guy like a John Bolton. You know John Bolton.
Bro, Kobe Covington is the biggest bully in sports, and he fucking cosplays as a Trump supporter. Kobe Covington literally is a MAGA UFC fighter, and he's the biggest bully in the sport. Yeah, he knows something about the bullies. They literally support Donald Trump.
A friend of mine called me up. I was picking Bolton. He's a very smart guy. His name is Phil Ruffin. He's a very rich guy from Las Vegas. He's a great card player. He doesn't play cards, but he's a great player. He's just a natural. Got poker sense, right? Good old poker sense. And Phil Ruffin is a very, very wise kind of a guy, and one of the richest people around, and has had great success and understands people. So it was in that I was picking Bolton, or I picked Bolton. He called up. He said, "Don't pick him. Why? He's a bad guy." Now, he wasn't in politics at all. He's in various businesses.
Dude.
He said, "He's a bad guy. He's just, it always works out bad with that guy." And I said, "Oh, man, I wish you told me this 2 weeks ago. I already hired him. He's here." And
Redonk, when does this get good?
But he was good in a certain way. He's a nut job. And every time I had to deal with a country, when they saw this whack job standing behind me, they said, "Oh, man, Trump's going to go to war with us." He was with Bush when they went stupidly into the Middle East. They should have never done it. I used to say it as a civilian. So I always got more publicity than other people. And it wasn't like I was trying. In fact,
Redonk, we're 24 minutes into this, and this fucking guy has rambled about fucking nothing. Like, tell me, when does this get good? Not that this was your suggestion. This was my idea. This was my idea to watch this. Just give me a hint. When does it get good, dog?
I don't know exactly why. Maybe you can tell me why.
Oh, I could definitely tell you. You said a lot of wild shit.
Maybe.
You said a lot of wild shit, and then CNN, in all their brilliance, by highlighting your wild shit, made you much more popular.
Yeah.
And they boosted you in the polls because people were tired of someone talking in this bullshit, pre-prepared politician lingo. And even if they didn't agree with you, they at least knew whoever that guy is, that's him. That's really him. Yeah. When you see certain people talk, certain people in the public eye, you don't know who.
But the wildness of that statement is like, it's like they didn't care what you were saying because they knew like you were honestly you. Like I said, that's like when you have that friend and you're like, yeah, but bro, he's a cool dude. I know he's an asshole. I know he's a womanizer. I know that he's like, he's a criminal. Like, but at least he speaks honestly, bro. Like, what? The fuck are you talking about? Like, he was literally just talking about how politicians that he knows of, he would offer them positions, but they didn't want to take them because they didn't want to do things that were controversial. If you run a business, you don't go around going, man, what I really want in this business, what will make this business successful is having a bunch of people that say controversial shit, that speak with their chest, because that's who they are, really. Like, this is like what drives me nuts about just your average everyday voter, is they're dumb. They're like, no, like, at least he speaks his thoughts. At least he honestly tells you what he thinks about these things. That's not a good thing when the person is a criminal or they're an abuser or they're not a good person. Hitler also spoke his thoughts. Putin also speaks his thoughts. Stalin spoke his thoughts to the tune of something like, what was it, 18 million people going through the gulags? That might be an over-exaggeration. It's been a while since I've looked up that statistic. It might have been 8 million or 2 million even. But god damn it, man. Why are people so dumb? This drives me up a fucking wall. I love the idea of getting a person in office that is like us, that has our beliefs in mind, that is one of us. But I'm also fucking smart enough to know that you don't want me to be president. Because if I'm in office and somebody comes to me and goes, yo, dog, first of all, that's how the people that are going to be in my cabinet talk to me, because that's the people I would pick. Yo, dog, economy's all fucked up and shit. What should we do about that? I don't know, give people money? And y'all would be like, yeah! That makes sense. Fuck yeah, vote for that dude. He said, give us money. That's my shit right there. Stimulus the shit out of my beehole. Let's go. Like, that's what... But in the end, guys, I would drive us right into the pit. I'd be throwing money out the whole goddamn time. I'd be flying out the window. Fucking y'all will all be rich for like 15 minutes before the entire economy crashed. Because I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. But would I stand up there and tell you guys honestly about how I feel? Fuck yeah, I would. Oh, dude, you know, I get on here all the time. I just tell you guys, I'm sure people just unsubscribe right now. They're like, he called me stupid. Fuck him. I'll never watch this show again. Okay, good. Good for you. I'm going to be honest. Because I'm not the fucking president of the United States, dog. Okay? Because my level of responsibility is literally to get up here and talk to you guys and be like, can we stop fucking voting against our own interests? Can we start supporting the middle class, which is the most important part of America's economy, so that way we can start raising up poverty-stricken people? Can we start taxing the goddamn ultra-wealthy, so that way the middle class stops having to bear a burden that is unjust? Like, that's what I'm going to do. Because you know what? On YouTube, the level of responsibility I have for this country's, like, you know, its positive outcome is very low. You don't put me in the office as a president of the United States. What this is the dumbest shit I've ever heard in my life. They were happy that you said that you could grab a woman by the pussy. They were like, that's pretty dope. He said what he thinks. Jesus Christ.
Who they are. You have no idea who they are. It's very difficult to know. You see them in conversations. They have these pre-planned answers. They say everything.
Spiken says, Tom McDonald, MAGA rapper. First of all, Tom McDonald's a horrible fucking rapper. Absolute garbage, and that's my hip-hop opinion. That's not my political opinion. Said that Eminem has been canceled. Thoughts? So people, that's actually a pretty, this is why I love Eminem, right? This is why I love Bernie, and this is why I love Eminem. Because Eminem got up there and talked about Barack Obama and talked about Kamala Harris, and he had every reason not to. And that is because during, what was it? I think it was probably about 8 or 10 years ago, millennials decided that they're gonna cancel Eminem, and they had a whole TikTok movement that they're gonna cancel Eminem. And I've said this before. My opinion of the left's culture 12, 14 years ago was that you had a lot of people that were like marginalized, that were very upset, very angry. And the way that they reacted to that anger and that oppression was, was it appropriate is the question, because now we're at a point where like people do understand that certain words matter. People do understand that there are like financial repercussions for like being an asshole. So was it appropriate? That's the question, right? But I do think that at one point or another, the culture of canceling people went too far. I think that, if you don't like a joke, then you should boycott it. And if you consider boycotting canceling culture, I don't agree with you. I believe that like a person's allowed to come out and say that you said something homophobic. And if the majority of people say, fuck you, I'll never listen to your music ever again, then that's their right. But what Tom MacDonald is trying to do is Tom MacDonald's trying to add fuel to a fire where a person like Eminem is capable of saying, yeah, I'm not always going to say things that you like. I'm not always going to be the pillar of positive influence that you think I should be, because I'm me and I'm a flawed person and I do things that people disagree with, but sometimes I get better and sometimes I'm just me. And at the end of the day, that doesn't mean you have to love Eminem. That means that as millennials, they had the right to say, I don't support anything that Eminem produces as far as music. It means that millennials had the right to say that, they think that if you are an Eminem fan, that they can't be friends with you. That's perfectly fine. That's their choice. So did they try to cancel Eminem? Yeah, they did. But did they cancel Eminem? No. And Eminem is, he's that kind of guy. He's very much, like I said, the Bernie Sanders of the world, where they're maybe two polar opposites in the way that they go about their thing, but they both got big balls. They both got huge balls. And Elton John, in my opinion, is one of the most savage motherfuckers out there. Elton John is 100% one of my heroes, and Elton John and Tina Turner are two of the baddest motherfuckers that ever existed in the entertainment industry. And Elton John came out and said, you know what? Has he said things that are homophobic? Yes, he has. Has he said things that are hurtful to people? Yes, he has. And we're gonna talk. I'm gonna get with this dude, and we're gonna talk about this, and we're gonna find a middle ground, because I think overall he's a really dope musician that's very creative and has great imagination. But I think that the way he grew up caused him to have some opinions that I think are faulty. And because of his relationship with Elton John, Eminem has become a better person. And that is exactly what is missing from Donald Trump, is that there's never been a person around Donald Trump that has ever been willing to go to Donald Trump and say, hey, the things that you say are super fucked up, and don't you think that you could be a better person and use like your power, your status, your connections to like help people out? Because Donald Trump is a narcissist, and he doesn't give a fuck, and he doesn't want to be told no, and he doesn't want to get better. But Eminem has grown and become a better adult. Doesn't mean he doesn't still say fucked up shit. It just means that now, like, you can recognize that he's gone out there and done something and influenced people in positive ways with certain positive songs. And he's the exact opposite of Tom MacDonald, who literally was fucking nobody, absolutely nobody, until he paid like $100,000, $50,000 for an Eminem beat, and then claimed that Eminem produced the song. Because Tom MacDonald's a liar, Tom MacDonald's a liar, and Tom MacDonald is quite possibly one of the shittiest rappers that has ever existed. Hope that answers your question.
Everything, it's very rehearsed. You never get to the meat of it. One of the beautiful things about you is that you freeball. Like, you get out and you do these huge events, and you're just talking, and you're making. We've highlighted you on the show many times when you did this Biden impression where he's walking around, he doesn't know what he's doing. It's funny. It's stand up. It's funny stuff. But it's like you and you were making fun of Elon one time. You were doing an Elon impression. It's great. You have like comedic instincts. Like when you said to Hillary, "You'd be in jail." Like it's great timing. Yeah. But it's like that kind of stuff was unheard of as a politician. Like no one had done that. And I think
it's funny. You need at least the attitude of a comedian when you're doing this business. This is a very dangerous business. First of all, it's a very tough business.
It's the most dangerous business.
It's the most, for a job?
Yes. I mean, other than going to war and being a firefighter or being a cop, it's the most dangerous business.
It's the most dangerous. Being president is the most dangerous.
Especially you. I mean, you haven't even got to the election. There's been 2 assassination attempts. And they've brushed those out of the news like it was nothing.
Yeah, they'd rather.
Yeah, Who's brushed those out of the news like it was nothing? Dude, his own grifter fucking Benny Johnson, Tim Pool, Dave Smith, all the grifters still to this day, they bring it up in like passing. Oh, it's weird that nobody talks about it. Well, neither do you. You're not doing a fucking 2-hour special on his assassination attempts. You know why? Because that's the news media cycle that we live in. Once again, this is no weird conspiracy theory that exists because it's all against Donald Trump. This is how society works now. This isn't specific to Donald Trump. If Kamala Harris tomorrow, were to have somebody attempt to take her life, it would be out of the news cycle within 72 hours. 72 hours. Because this is my problem with all of this that just pisses me off so much, is that no one is willing to admit that this is how society works. That it isn't some kind of conspiracy theory. It's just literally our society has an issue with wanting to be constantly overstimulated. We are overstimulated and we are undereducated. We don't know shit about the subject, but we want more. We want more. We want more. We want more. And we want new and we want different. It's not that no one cared that Donald Trump had somebody that tried to shoot him. It's that 10 minutes later, the people within his own fucking camp are putting out news stories to take attention away from it. Whether they're doing it on purpose, it doesn't matter. What matters is that it is happening, and therefore it will take attention away from the topic. And the reason that 20 years ago, 30 years ago, topics like this had much longer shelf lives was because there wasn't a news cycle that literally was like hour to hour. This is not a conspiracy theory. It's not they're keeping Donald Trump's assassination out of the news. It's because this is how society has worked, and this is because this is the society that we have created with our actions, our beliefs, and our opinions. You just wanted a break from listening to him blather? Yeah.
Rather not talk about him.
Imagine if there was assassination attempts on Biden, how hard people would be attacking the right, how they would be trying to get guns taken away from people. They would try to ramp up gun laws. They would try to figure out some way to blame you. If there was attacks if Biden got shot in the ear, we would have never heard the end of it.
But I think he's in good.
Bullshit. Literally, the only thing that we heard about for like 24 hours every day of the week was Joe Biden's poor debate performance. Joe Biden's poor debate performance had such a long shelf life that Joe Biden stepped aside. It's absolutely ridiculous to say that if Joe Biden was shot in the ear, they'd never stop talking about it. No, you know what they never stop talking about? When Joe Biden does something bad. Because this idea that the left is the only people putting out media is ridiculous. And the left-wing media isn't even good at what they do. The left-wing media didn't stop talking about Joe Biden's debate performance. The right-wing media didn't stop talking about Joe Biden's debate performance. And then the left-wing media stopped talking about fucking Donald Trump's ear, and the right-wing stopped talking about it too, and so did the grifters. At the end of the day, it's just that it's not that interesting to people. People really wanted to believe that Joe Biden has dementia, and so they talked about it ad nauseum. Donald Trump got shot at by a kid that potentially had at one point or another been a Republican, and the reason that the right-wing media isn't still talking about it is because of that. If that had been a Democrat, if the second guy hadn't been a guy who had fucking supported Donald Trump in 2016 and then supported a Nikki Haley Vivek Ramaswamy ticket in 2020 or 2024, the right-wing media would have never stopped talking about it. Never.
Good shape because it's only consequential presidents. If you take a look at what's happened, look, I'm for having countries pay us billions and billions and trillions even dollars. I took in hundreds of billions of dollars from China. Nobody took in 10 cents, not one other president. I do things that make it I mean, that don't necessarily make me so popular. I just do what's right. And when you do that, you know, you're more, look at Iran. We would have never had the attack on Israel at all. Iran was broke. I told China, if you buy, you can't do business in the...
Bro, he literally upset the Middle East. He killed the general, the main general, for a part of Iran society that literally gets a vote in their election. Soleimani. And by the way, I was for this. I was for the assassination of Soleimani. I do believe that Iran is an existential threat. I do believe that religious extremism is an existential threat. But if you think that that led to peace in the Middle East, I don't know what the fuck to tell you. If you think the Abraham Accords, where you had Israel going around and creating, you know, these peace pacts with other nations, wasn't going to upset Iran, especially after you assassinated one of their generals, was going to lead to peace in the Middle East. Once again, I do not understand how people do not understand how illogical the things that they say are. That's insane to believe that you are going to assassinate that man, then go around and make peace pacts, which, by the way, these countries were already doing trade deals with Israel behind the scenes, so it didn't even need to be out in the open. It was for Donald Trump's own hubris that he eliminated Soleimani. It was for Donald Trump's own hubris that he tried to make peace in the Middle East. Like, this is the insanity.
The United States, under any circumstance. We're going to go cold turkey with China. Some people think that would have been a good idea anyway. But if you buy one barrel of oil from them, you're not doing business. I said that to many countries. Iran was broke. They had no money for Hezbollah. They had no money for Hamas. They had no money. But I make myself, you know, I mean, I understand what I'm doing. You make yourself a target, and it's a very dangerous business. But if you just look at statistically, so I said, I sort of think, I don't know if it's right, but 1/10 of 1% for a race car driver. Yeah, it's pretty dangerous business, right?
Yeah.
1/10 of 1%. For a bull rider, I tell you, to me, these guys that ride the bulls is worse than UFC. It's worse.
Yeah.
These guys, you see these big monster bulls, and you see it in slow motion where the foot is like...
Bro, this is why it's like, Donald Trump's not a president, and this is exactly why. Somebody tell me for the last 27 minutes and 50 seconds anything that he said that's important. Anything. Anything at all. Blow my mind. Tell me something he said in the last 27 minutes and 45 seconds that was actually like pertinent or important to the conversation. The dude is like, he rambles. And I said this before. If in 2016 people hadn't voted for him, we wouldn't have this problem. You can see Donald Trump on Rogan today. You'd just be like, the weird dude like rambles a lot. Sometimes he says funny shit. Like, that's the honest take on this interview. It's not my political opinion of Donald Trump in this interview. I've told you guys before, if we want to discuss why I don't think Donald Trump's, a good presidential candidate, my opinions on why Donald Trump won't be a good presidential candidate, I guarantee are going to be different than the majority of people on the left. It's going to definitely be different than all the people on the right and what they think makes him a good president. But I can tell you this is the perfect example of why he's not a good president. Because he doesn't say things of importance. He's the guy that comes to your house, hangs out on your couch, drinks beers, tells you weird facts about bull riders and NASCAR drivers, and then when he leaves, you're like, oh, whatever. That's not who you want to be the president of the United States. You want somebody that's impactful. You want somebody that leads through real, actual authority and intelligence.
Like, you know, an inch away from the head, if it hits him, the guy's gone. But they die. You know, they die.
So 1/10 of 1% die. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, 1/10 of 1% die.
Right.
And they certainly get hurt badly. Really, I mean, they can't walk after a certain period of time. But with a president, if you look at
the amount of assassination attempts.
And attempts, too. And attempts. No, it's a very dangerous position. I never thought of that, by the way, when I did it. You don't tend to...
Did you just assume because people loved you on The Apprentice?
Okay, I can't do this. I'm gonna skip ahead because I really can't. And also, we're not gonna get through this. I've got an hour and a half until soccer, so... we're going to skip to the 45-minute mark. That's where Redonk tells us that this gets better. It is.
Do not buy solar panels if you live in California. Americans living in the zip code starting with 90.
Branch since the Air Force.
It's just boring. I'm not saying this because I don't like Donald Trump. It's just boring. When I watched the Lex Friedman interview with Donald Trump, that was fucking like nerve grating. It was so boring. Donald Trump talks so weird, and Lex Friedman talks so slow. It was the worst mashup in an interview that you could have, and this is actually just as bad, to be honest.
And that's going to be one of our most important things. But think of what Elon does. And he did one other thing that I never heard of it. It's Starlink. I went down to North Carolina, Georgia, the different places. Right,
Jesus
I followed
Christ.
it right down.
I went forward 20 minutes.
No communication.
And he's still not
the poles were all
talking
knocked
about
down. Everything. And one of the guys in North Carolina said, "Could you do me a favor? Do you know Elon Musk?" Yes. He endorsed me. By the way, he gave me the nicest endorsement too. The tough. He said, "The country's going to fail. You should do the same thing, Joe, because you cannot."
You remember when I was talking about Elon Musk giving $45 million to Donald Trump, and all the Trump supporters were like, "No, he's not. No, he's not. You're so full of shit. He hasn't given any money." You know how many messages from people I got that were fucking, that are on the right or that are fucking conservative or fucking JFK supporters? Like, I got so many messages from people that were like, "Bro, you're spreading misinformation now. He's not giving money to Trump, dude. You're just as bad as the people that say that this stuff's going on that isn't." Yeah. How's it feel, you fucking idiots? He's now given $115 million to Donald Trump's campaign, and he's literally paying people $1 million to sign petitions for Donald Trump. You're fucking morons. I just want to say that to you, because you guys gave me so much shit. You're just shilling. He hasn't given any money, bro. Fucking booty in Discord. Prove that he's given this money. Fuck you. I hate you guys so much. I literally give so much grace to people in these arguments where I'm like, okay, fine, sure. I've read a couple articles on this. I've seen some videos. I can't 100% prove that this thing is happening. And here we are months later, and he's given $115 million to Donald Trump. Where are you guys now? Where are all the people that were like, he's not doing that? Now, what are you doing? You're going like, it's his right to do it, bro. Because you guys are a bunch of fucking sheep. Sheep ass. People that talk, "Oh, you guys just follow along anybody. Yeah, you guys just like whatever the Democrat Party says you guys believe. He isn't giving any money." You guys are the actual fucking sheep. Y'all are actually the people that follow motherfuckers and believe everything they say. God.
Not be voting for Kamala. Kamala, you're not a Kamala person. I know you. I've watched you. I know him better than he does. You know what? Without speaking to you, I think I know you maybe almost as well as your wife. I have watched you for so many years. You're not, by the way, he gave me the nicest endorsement too. The tough, he said, "The country's going to fail. You should do the same thing, Joe, because you cannot be voting for Kamala. Kamala, you're not a Kamala person. I know you. I've watched you. I know him better than he does. You know what? Without speaking to you, I think I know you maybe almost as well as your wife. I have watched you for so many years. You're not a Kamala person. You're a Khabib person, but you're not a Kamala person. Nobody's going to know who Khabib."
Oh my God. First of all, I'm like one of the people that like defended Rogan in the early days of saying like he has some very liberal points of view. He might not think he's a Kamala dude, but he definitely shouldn't think he was a Trump dude either if he's been watching him for years. Joe Rogan literally used to make fun of Donald Trump. Joe Rogan has called Donald Trump a threat to American democracy. If he's watched him for years, what's happening, Cajun? What's happening, Annie? What's happening, Stan? All the people that I missed.
He was, but
they know
he was not bad, right?
Oh, he was phenomenal.
Exactly.
But that's your kind of
Your
person.
weave is getting wide. We're getting wide with this weave.
But isn't it
I want
much
to bring it
better?
back to tariffs.
But wait one second before we finish with tariffs.
Oh, dude. He's trying so hard. He's trying so hard to get Donald Trump to just talk about a specific thing, and you can't. The dude is incapable of staying on topic.
They said, "Could you get him? We need Starlink." And I call Elon. He got it for him so fast, saved so many lives. And I said, "How was it?" They said, "Better than the wires. You know, they couldn't put them in. They were all gone."
Oh my God. Smartest man in the world. Better than the wires. They couldn't put him in. They were all done. We just need a Trump translator. It's like the Nate Diaz translator. We need a Trump translator.
I used it recently in Utah in the
great.
mountains.
Did you find it good?
Oh, it's phenomenal. It's the size of
Rain
like
in the
an
weave.
iPad. You just set it down on the ground and you get high-speed internet. It's incredible.
We're spending, just to show you, we're spending $1 trillion.
Two boomers sitting down talking about cell phones. This is what this reminds me of. They're like, cell phones are crazy, aren't they? They're crazy. They send the information. It goes out in the atmosphere. It goes to your phone. It comes to my phone. It's crazy. They send pictures now. They send pictures. The pictures, they go right to your phone. You can look at it. You're like, that's my Meemaw. That's my Meemaw. She's talking to me. It's crazy. It's insane what they can do with technology nowadays. They just put it on the ground and it beams the internet right into your house. Holy shit, this is amazing. This part's
You get
good.
cables all over the country, right?
Oh, fuck.
Up to upstate areas where you have like 2 farms and they're spending millions of dollars to have
Well,
a cable.
talk about the
Elon can do it for
$42
nothing.
billion that was wasted on this internet access program. The United States, they did.
Joe Rogan's like, he's like, hold on. Here's some shit that you don't know that I'm going to try to get you to talk about. And here's where Trump says something completely inane, has nothing to do with the topic, and just like in some roundabout ways, be like, it was terrible. It was terrible. They should have never used it. I would have never done it. If I would have been in that charge, we would never spent that money. We owe a lot of money. We owe so much debt. We're so much in debt. China, we owe China so much debt. I got the most money from China. You don't understand. Like, nobody has ever gotten the amount of money that I've gotten from China. I got it from China. Yeah. How do you guys think I did? Do you guys think I called it? Do you think that's exactly what Trump does when he talks? Because I fucking have watched too many of these fucking interviews.
Didn't get anybody.
They haven't
access
hooked
to
up.
anybody.
They haven't hooked up one person.
Not
yet.
one person. They spent $42 billion. They could have gotten Starlinks to everybody with that kind of money.
For almost nothing.
Yeah.
For a monthly charge.
And it would have been incredible.
And he
high-speed
wanted to-
internet everywhere you want to go.
And he wanted to.
He said almost nothing, and then he said for a monthly charge. That's not almost nothing, dog. That's a monthly charge.
Do that.
my
And he wanted to do it.
How about this? They built
Like $4
the charging
would have
stations,
cost him
right?
nothing.
In the Midwest. They
Dude, he's about to talk about the charger stations that are literally for electric cars, which are literally built by Elon. And he's about to claim that it cost him billions of dollars, when the actual honest answer to why those there's only like so many chargers that have been built is because we're building the infrastructure surrounding putting out those electric chargers. And here's the thing. I don't even think Donald Trump thinks he's being dishonest when he talks about this. I think Donald Trump is so uneducated about this topic and so stupid that he doesn't realize that he doesn't know this. He really thinks that they spent, $5 billion on 2 chargers. He doesn't realize, and this is why it makes him a bad candidate for president, once again, is that he doesn't realize that that money goes into the infrastructure needed to create charging stations across the nation, and that they have installed how many ever. I don't remember how many they've installed so far. But the point of the bill and how much money is being spent is to have a greater infrastructure across the country of electric chargers. I don't have an electric vehicle. I'm willing to pay tax money for this because it's better for society, it's better for the climate, and it's better for the economy. Because China has already gotten way out ahead of us on green energy, and we're already losing that battle. Like, it's important to have the infrastructure that is built around these charging stations.
built 8 of them.
Oh my God.
They cost $9 billion. That's like a gas pump, right? They built 9 gas pumps, except electricity comes out. They spent $9 billion.
Oh my
3 of
God,
them
he
don't
said
work.
that.
The whole thing. There's so much waste. I could sit here and tell you about things that
He said 3 of them don't work. He means 3 of them aren't currently operational yet. Like I said, I don't know if he's just stupid or if he's intentionally being dishonest. I actually think he's just stupid. You can't be that dumb to actually believe that they spent that much money on 9 electric charging stations. Jesus Christ.
there's so much waste, abuse, and fraud.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, and he's a part of it. At no point will I disagree that the government is wasteful. At no point will I disagree that the government needs to be more transparent with how they spend our money. But my problem with people is that they look at Donald Trump and they're like, you know the guy that scammed people? You know the guy that knows all the loopholes? You know the guy that's like committed fraud and like paid off porn stars and done like all this like lowbrow fucked up shit? You know that guy? He's the one that's going to solve it, guys. He's going to be the one. Like, in what reality do you live in that you would think that Donald Trump is an angel? It is a weird reality.
I think everybody's aware of that.
Let's get back to tariffs.
When you're talking about, one of the criticisms of your administration was with tax cuts and with tariffs, you increased the deficit. So what was the strategy behind that? And did you think it was going to increase the deficit by a substantial amount?
Okay, we were ready to rock. It was all...
He's like, look, 3.5 years in. 3.5 years in. Every 2 weeks telling you that we were going to get an infrastructure deal done that we didn't because I blew my wad on giving billionaires tax cuts. We were going to get it going. It was just going to be 2 more weeks. 2 more weeks, and then you have no idea. We're about to have the strongest economy we've ever had before.
You know, I had a bad system. We had a horrible tax policy. I made it great. With a much lower tax rate. So I took it.
We're literally in his tax rates right now. This is why, like, MAGA people drive me nuts. If you ask somebody if they think that the tax cut or the tax brackets right now are good or bad, they'll tell you they're bad. If you then tell them that we are currently still under Donald Trump's tax plan until 2025, they have no fucking idea. It's Joe Biden's tax plan. No, it's not. These are literally the same taxes, except the corporate tax doesn't expire and yours does. The child care tax did expire already, and Republicans didn't want to re-up it. And then if you go on to ask these people, well, how do you think as a middle-class person, your ability to use the write-offs that were lowered under taxes or Donald Trump's tax plans, how do you feel that those write-offs, how do you feel that affected you and your tax bracket? Do you think that did good things for you, or do you think that they did bad things for you? Because with the expiration of the taxes, now you're going to be able to use more of your home's costs, more write-offs. There's more that you can claim on your taxes once the taxes have expired. Tax breaks have expired. They can't tell you because they don't know, because they're not smart enough to really actually tell you how they're benefiting from these tax breaks. And that's what drives me fucking nuts. If these people could explain to me how those write-offs work and how they either affected them negatively or positively, we could have a conversation, but they can't. Because to be honest with you, I didn't get that big of a tax break because I needed those write-offs.
From almost 40% down to 21%. Now I'm bringing it from 21 down to 15, but only if you make your product in the United States, which is great. People call me, they said, what a great idea. Nobody ever heard of that before. I don't care if they make the product in Japan. Why should I give them?
Ever heard
so it's at 21. That at 21, in the first year, we took in much
Catherine.
more revenue than we did at almost
Thanks
40.
For being
Think
here.
of that. It inspired. Now, we had other things, too. We were able to get people to bring back their money. You couldn't bring back your money. If you had money in
Jesus
Europe,
Christ.
like Apple. Apple had many billions of dollars outside. They couldn't bring it. There was no way to bring it back in. The bureaucracy, the documents, the whole thing. And also the tax was too high. You know, they wanted like half of it or something. Nobody's going to do that. So they leave their money in Japan and they spend their money there. That was part of what I did. The money came pouring back in. Apple took in hundreds of billions of dollars.
Yeah, corporations made lots of money under Donald Trump. That's why corporate billionaires support Donald Trump. That's why Bill Ackman supports Donald Trump. That's why Elon Musk supports Donald Trump. He's telling you something honestly right now. Yeah, those people couldn't bring their money back into America because Democratic presidents were like, we're going to tax the shit out of you when you bring that money back into America. It's called the long game. They're not going to sit over there forever with that money. They want to be able to spend it here. You don't think that a lot of those big companies didn't have ways to find, like they weren't living in this country and spending that money? 100% they were. They're not rich because they don't understand loopholes. They're not rich because they don't understand how to commit fraud. That's exactly why they're rich. because they know fraud. They know loopholes. Donald Trump just was like, sure, you don't need to use the loopholes anymore. You don't need to commit fraud anymore. Now you can make hundreds of billions of dollars and just like, you can take it all. It's great. Feels good, doesn't it? Like, he's honestly speaking to you right now. You should listen to what the fuck he's saying.
They brought it back from overseas. They brought it in.
So how does the deficit increase?
Yeah, no donor ever gave me that proposal.
We were ready to rock
exactly,
and roll, and then we had the COVID thing, and we had to focus
what
on
up,
that.
Paul?
And
happening,
if
Eve?
we didn't give some businesses a hand, you would have had a depression like in 1929. But we were ready to start. We would have very shortly been paying off debt. You know, we have $35 trillion in debt. And I'll never forget it.
We were shortly going to be paying off debt. The man that added 27%, 30% to the debt, he added $8 trillion, $4 trillion before COVID. And then he added another $4 trillion in stimulus. And if you want to know how hypocritical MAGA is, MAGA claims that inflation was created by printing money, which that's a portion of how inflation is created. But guess who added stimulus first into the economy? Donald Trump. MAGA claims that COVID wasn't real. MAGA claims that the vaccination was bullshit. Guess who originally worked on the vaccine? Donald Trump. Guess who originally was creating all the protocols and stimulusing the citizenship at the beginning of COVID because he knew it was real? Donald Trump. They're so fucking hypocritical. And it just doesn't stop. So now you're going to tell me COVID isn't real, but it was completely okay for him to spend $4 trillion on dealing with COVID. You're going to say that inflation wasn't Donald Trump's fault, but stimulus causes inflation, and Donald Trump used stimulus during COVID. And then you're going to tell me that the $8 trillion in debt that Donald Trump added to our national debt was going to just magically go away because he was working on that. Donald Trump brought in $580 billion from his tax cuts and from his policies. Joe Biden, last I checked, through the Infrastructure Act and through the American Recovery Act, brought in something like $1.6 trillion. Inflation Reduction Act, sorry. Infrastructure Act and Inflation Reduction Act. Brought in over $1.6 trillion. It's insane. It's insane to me that people can like believe the shit that he, but no, actually it's not insane. I should understand it. It's because people are stupid. People are just dumb.
It was talking about from, the standpoint of being in office. I'm in the Oval Office, and I have John McLaughlin and Fabrizio, the two very good pollsters, probably, I don't know, I would say the two best, who knows, but very good pollsters. And we're starting to think about running for a second term. And we had the greatest economy in history. Never has there been an economy like
And you
this.
attribute that to lowering taxes
a lot
and
of
tariffs.
Two things. And also I cut regulations more than anybody else. And if I asked many of the businessmen.
Yeah, you know what cutting regulations leads to? Onions with E. coli. Fucking killing people. It leads to trains that don't have to have the proper braking systems, wrecking and destroying communities. This idea that you just cut all regulations and then like businesses just do the right thing is fucking dumb. And he didn't even cut as many regulations as he'd like to act like he did. He cut specific regulations that his cronies, his donors wanted him to cut, which allowed them to make more money, 100%, that never made it down to the poverty-stricken, never made it down to the middle class, because they don't support those things being done. They don't support the uber wealthy being taxed. They don't support social safety nets for the impoverished communities of our country. If they did, that would make sense. If big companies supported social safety nets and paid their part into the taxes to help support them instead of the middle class having to do it, then I would be all for allowing big companies to make lots of money so that way the impoverished can come out of being impoverished from the poverty-stricken. Because when the poverty-stricken are lifted up into the middle class, that makes the entire economy better. When people that are below the poverty line have health care, when they have insurance, when they aren't so poverty stricken that they think committing crimes is their only way to get ahead in life, when our judicial system isn't overburdened with this type of thing, everybody does better. The economy does better. I would be all for it. The problem is that these ultra wealthy corporations don't pay their fair share, and Donald Trump not only made sure they didn't pay their fair share, but he actually increased the amount of money that they got to keep. That's insane. Woke says Trump is not a politician. He's a 34-count convicted felon. That is not false.
And, from the big companies, the guys running the big companies that say, so if you had your choice, you've had it now for a long time.
Yeah,
What's
he wanted to sign him.
Tax
grumpy.
cuts, you paid less tax, or the regulation cuts. Every one of them said the regulation cuts meant more. Who would think that, right? Because you don't equate it to dollars, but it actually is more dollars. We had it going, and then we just had to focus on something else. But they were sitting these two pollsters.
Dude, you like how he does that? Because he can't say COVID. He knows he'll trigger Joe Rogan. He couldn't say COVID because he knew Joe Rogan would start talking about COVID for the next 2.5 hours. He said something else came along. We were doing it, and then something else came along. Even Donald Trump knows better than to trigger Joe Rogan on the COVID talk. That was pretty funny.
We're sitting there, and they said, sir, if George Washington came back and Abraham Lincoln was his VP as opposed to Waltz, how bad is he, by the way? But if Abraham Lincoln was his VP.
Redonk's the perfect example. God damn it, are we back on Abraham Lincoln? Fuck, I heard that. I heard that out of the peripheral. Redonk is my perfect example of how fucking people don't understand inflation but think they do. Redonk, motherfucker, you're the same dude that will complain about inflation and then you're like, I love stimulus. God damn it.
VP, they couldn't beat you.
Sometimes.
You have and I'll never forget it. The following day, they said, something's happening in China, sir. Could we meet? I said, what's happening? People are dying. And it was all around the Wuhan lab, by the way. There are pictures with little lines. He did it. The body
Here we
bags,
go.
all around the Wuhan lab. And I always.
Here we go. Oh, shit. 877 cash now. Oh, here it is. You guys ready for this? Buckle up, boys. This is where it begins.
Said that from the beginning, Joe. It was, they tried to say, first they said it was France, and they blamed everybody.
Right.
But then they say it was bats from a cave, too.
Wait, did they say it was France? I don't remember that part. Did we blame France? We're always blaming the French, dude. It's always I'm not going to deny that that's a possibility. We probably did blame France at the beginning.
2,000 miles away. So we got hit with that, and despite that, we had the best economy. And when I gave it over, the stock market was higher than it was pre-COVID.
Bro, talk about the huge drop in the stock market during COVID. That's the part that I think is like super dishonest. Donald Trump can get the claim that, inflation was 1.4%. Gas was the lowest it's ever been. Like, if you don't understand this, and I'm going to explain this. So if you don't know this and you're on the left and you want to argue with Trump supporters, you can use this argument. And if you're a Trump supporter, I'm going to drop some fucking knowledge on you. Obama, for the last year of his presidency, had better average gas prices than Donald Trump had for the first 3.5 years of his presidency. Do you want to know why Donald Trump's gas prices dipped below Barack Obama's average gas price for the first time ever in the last half of his year? Can you guess why? It was because everybody was quarantined and nobody was buying gas. And if you don't understand how supply and demand work, then let me explain it to you. If nobody's buying the fucking gas, the price goes down. That's why you guys are a bunch of morons for being against electric vehicles. If people drive electric vehicles, then the cost of gas goes down because the demand for gas goes down, but you're too goddamn stupid to understand that. Every statistic that Donald Trump quotes, except for unemployment, that's like one of the craziest ones, is because unemployment fucking skyrocketed, right? So he uses the COVID numbers for everything, but the one like bad place. Inflation was down because there was nobody buying anything. You couldn't go buy fucking TVs and shit. People were buying toilet paper. They bought a lot of toilet paper, but apparently you can't stimulate the economy by buying toilet paper. It's not worth enough, even with fucking grocery stores price gouging you for it. Oh, my God.
I mean, nobody could even believe it. But
Exactly,
we saved
Grumpy.
it. And we were helping businesses. They were dying. They were dying.
So it's your belief that if you had a second term, given the policies in place, the way the
It was after World War One, redunk.
economy was booming, that you would have been able to pay off a lot of the debt. And that was the strategy.
If we didn't have COVID, we would have been paying off debt, and we would have had, and don't forget.
But this is the thing, and I get this. If you're just an average American, you don't know this. No, you wouldn't have. Because there's nothing that indicated within Trump's economy that we were going to start bringing in money. In 3.5 years, he brought in $500 billion. At what point was this magical, economical lift going to take place? Donald Trump, if you don't believe me, anything I say can be verified through statistics. Go look at a chart that shows Barack Obama's economy. Starting in 2009, when he took over for George Bush, and he began pulling us out of the Great Recession, right? The banks were failing, the housing market was failing. Joe Biden and Barack Obama pulled America out of that, and by 2016, had the economy, I think it's something like 76 straight months of the lowest unemployment rate in the history highest amount of job creation. Can't remember what the actual statistic was. But if you look at a chart, you can see where Barack Obama took over, fixed the economy for the most part, and then Donald Trump took office, and nothing changed. And for that, I even give Donald Trump credit, because I think that Donald Trump's policies were fast food. I think him doing what he did wasn't going to cause any real damage within the 4 years that he was in office, that it would cause more damage if he was allowed to be in charge for 8 years. I think we would have seen more damage done in a second term, because his economics are just fast food economics. It's just give money to people now, and that means that it'll be good later. But that's not how the economy actually works. So I actually give him credit for holding on to the economy Barack Obama had, but I'm not going to give him credit for making it better. He didn't make it better. He literally just kept it going. It's like if you came up on a ball rolling down a hill and you ran behind it, kicking it, going, look at how much better I'm making this ball go. No, it was already rolling down the hill. You just gave it a push. That's it. Good job. Good job. Spiken says, I keep trying to explain EVs will reduce gas prices to my MAGA neighbors, but they just can't understand it. And Spiken, the insane part about that is these people are now Elon Musk supporters. This is why I can't get with MAGA. I legitimately think MAGA is mentally ill, because they now support Elon Musk, but don't support electric vehicles. They complain that gas prices are too high, but don't support electric vehicles, which would actually reduce the price on gasoline because it reduces demand. I can't get with MAGA, because MAGA, in my opinion, is 100% a mental illness. I just can't.
By growth, the word growth is actually more important in a way, because you could have the same debt, but if you double your growth, all of a sudden you're under-levered. But still, we should pay off debt. If you viewed this $35 trillion right now, it's a lot. But if you look at the asset value, if you look at it purely as an asset value, we have oil underground, we have water, we have mountains, the assets are so enormous. But regardless of that, we've got $35 trillion in debt, we should pay it off. And we would have started paying off debt, and probably even giving further.
But even this is a misunderstanding of debt. You don't pay off debt. When you pay off debt, it's how your GDP equates to your debt value. So if we have $2 trillion in debt in a year, if you want to start to pay off that debt, you need to have a higher amount, okay, so let me just explain this. $2 trillion in debt means that you should have $2.5 trillion in GDP for the year, because that starts to pay off the debt. To pay off $35 trillion in debt in 4 years would be something along the lines of having like little to no actual government programs. So you're not, because we owe, the majority of our debt is owed by the American people and private institutions. So if you really wanted to pay off debt in America, the way to pay off debt would be to cut entitlement programs. It would be to get rid of social safety nets. It would be to reduce regulations, because by reducing regulations, you reduce government oversight. These are all things that Republicans run on ad nauseum, and they never actually do. The debt always goes up under Republicans because they run on the idea that they are going to cut regulations, they're going to cut entitlement programs, they're going to cut social safety nets, and then when they and that they're going to cut taxes. And when they get into office, they cut taxes for the ultra wealthy and sometimes for middle class people as well. But then they don't do any of the other things that they claim they were going to do, which creates the deficit. That is how the deficit is created. That's also why you have larger deficits under Republican presidents than you do under Democrat presidents. Because Democrats don't come into office, cut a bunch of taxes, and then cut and claim to cut entitlement programs and not do that. Instead, they're more honest about what they're going to do. They claim that they're going to come in and put in social safety nets. They're going to redistribute wealth from the ultra wealthy to the poverty stricken, and they make every effort to do so. And that's why you don't see a real change in deficits under Democratic presidents, except for under Biden right now, because he did put a bunch of money into COVID at the beginning. Something like $2.6 trillion of his debt comes from COVID. Another large part of that debt comes from the Infrastructure Act, which is necessary for America to thrive. But like I said, that Infrastructure Act has actually also brought in over $1 trillion. That's how you cut deficits. You don't cut deficits by magically just like paying payments. It's not like a credit card. Your GDP... So something he's saying here is correct, right? Is that we have the resources to pay off portions of our debt. But the reason that we operate outside of our country for resources is because we can get them cheaper from outside of our country, because it strengthens alliances with other countries when we do it from outside of our country. That's not always the best option, but a lot of times it is the cheapest option. So he's fundamentally not understanding that you don't just drill every ounce of oil out of America, because as the global supply gets smaller, America's oil becomes worth more. This is the big picture that people don't understand about economics and running a country and how things work on a global stage. And Donald Trump clearly doesn't understand that.
They're given further tax reductions. I want to get it down to 15%. We're going to do more business. But when you get hit with a COVID, everything stops, and you have to keep these businesses alive. The businesses were dying. I mean, they were just dying. This whole place, this country was going to die.
Are there influences out?
Jesus. And that's, once again, that's where he just loses any type of sanity. This country was going to die. That's ridiculous.
Outside of environmental that keep people from wanting to drill for oil and frack and do those sort of things, outside of the environmental concerns, which are legitimate, of course.
No,
but are there other influences that maybe over-accentuate or over-exaggerate?
Oh, dude, I wanted him to fight with him on that, because Rogan does believe in climate change. I wanted him to fight with him on that one.
These environmental effects? Are people being influenced in a way where they're trying to keep us from producing American oil?
Yeah. So the environmental is the biggest tool for stopping growth, the biggest tool. The other is regulation. And if you speak to Elon, he said the regulation now to send a rocket up to anywhere, even if you do everything, it's almost...
I wonder why there would be so much regulation surrounding shooting a rocket into space. This is why I think people are just dumb. Like, yeah, you don't think that there should be regulations around drilling and potentially like despoiling the very environment that you live in, and you don't think that there should be regulations surrounding shooting people into fucking space? Jesus Christ.
It's becoming impossible. But they use environmental in order to get people not to do anything. And sometimes I say, you know, I look at some of I know the environmental stuff better because I had to build buildings in New York. I had to do environmental impact studies. And I would see some of these guys.
I literally just did a podcast with a guy named Steven Robinson who had to fight against Donald Trump because he wanted to put down a gigantic swath of buildings in the western portion of Manhattan, I believe in the 80s. One of the ways that they fought Donald Trump was by using the environmental impact and how negative it was going to be on the environment. And Donald Trump didn't give a fuck. They actually beat Donald Trump, not by using the environmental regulations that they thought for sure should win, but by taking him to court and suing the city to stop it. Like, if you want more on that, you guys can watch my most recent podcast with Steven Robinson on his book Turf Wars. You should check it out. It's a really interesting conversation. But this is like what I said. This is why he's just full of shit, dude.
So they'd hire for a lot of money environmentalists that would get you through the process, and they'd be up in Albany, that's the capital of New York, and they're up there trying to make it tougher for guys like me that were builders because they'd get paid more money. In other words, I had one guy. Highly recommended. I was good at getting permits. I was one of the kings I was always very good. But the environmental stuff was always horrible. They could slow a project down 10 years, 15 years. I had a project in Louisiana, built big LNG plant. It was for 14 years.
Dude, if Rogan doesn't push back on this, Rogan's a pussy. If Rogan doesn't push back on this, he's a pussy.
It was going to cost $18 billion, one of the biggest, like the Empire State Building, laying down on its side times 4. Massive on the Gulf Coast. And they said, sir, they're going to give it up. I said, they shouldn't give it up. What's the problem? They can't get their environmental. They had environmental permits that would fill this whole room up to the ceiling. And they said there was one mistake on one little line. They want them to do it all over again. It's not going to happen. And I got them their permit instantly.
Lots of money, a little public.
Bro, like, he's like, I got it for him instantly. It's like you're literally saying that you circumvented the regulation process to get somebody that you liked a permit that they shouldn't have gotten. That is so funny. Like, people are like, he's honest, he's a good person. Jesus Christ.
You're saying that there's people that are making money by making it difficult.
Yeah.
Are you talking about lawyers?
No, I'm talking about environmental consultants and lawyers.
Environmental consultants profit off of dragging out the process.
Absolutely.
And
they
how do
make
they
the
profit?
process worse.
How do they profit?
And I'd probably do the same thing if I were them, to be honest with you. I want to be honest with you.
How do they do that? How do they make it?
Let's say New York, they go to Albany.
Okay.
And they convince people that if you have a certain type of plant on the ground that's this big and in theory valueless, that it's a rare plant and you cannot ever even touch it. You can't go near it. You can't put a building on it. You can't do anything. Or there's a little puddle and they call it a lake and you have to go by the standards of a lake. I said, no, that's a puddle. Oh, you have.
Dude, he's not going to push back on this.
No idea. Guys are filling a little
he knows, that that's not what they're doing.
Puddles. You have no idea what they do.
And
they use it as a way to stop you.
They use it as a way to stop you, and also as a way to generate money. I'm curious how are they generating money that way, though?
Well, they get fees.
They get fees.
Massive fees.
And
you pay these guys.
People rely on them as experts because they're the people that they go to when they have to run these studies in the first place.
But some of them are just bad guys, and they're trying to make it more and more difficult.
And they have a lot of power.
I think they maybe had more. They didn't have as much with me because I would get through them, and I understood it. Look, I've done so many. They call it environmental impact study. I did so much to build a building. To build a building in New York is very tough. You got to deal with. Think of it: financing, unions, all the municipal stuff, environmental. Of all of it, to me, the toughest thing was the environmental, because they could stop you cold with the environmental impact study stuff. And you hire a so-called expert. They say, sir, he's the one guy he can get you through the morass. It's a morass. It's horrible. They use it as a weapon. They use it all over the country.
Right, but there are legitimate concerns about environmental impact, correct? Look about the BP oil spill. There's a lot of things that do happen that are environmentally devastating. And you want to mitigate that as much as possible.
You do. Look, I had, during our 4 years, we had the cleanest air and the cleanest water. I view it different.
Dude. He's so disingenuous. Oh, my
I say
God.
air and water.
Oh,
Remember this.
God.
It costs much more to do things environmentally clean. China doesn't do anything.
Right.
When Kerry goes to see President Xi of China, which he probably doesn't even get to see him, but they look at him, oh, yes, we will do. Oh, yes, we're going to do that.
Oh, my God. Okay, I can't do this. Is there a better part of this conversation, Redonk? There's got to be a better part of this conversation. This shit is like... It's just like listening to Donald Trump complain about like how everything he does is good, but nobody wants him to do the good things. Oh, dude. I had hoped this would be a lot better. I'll be honest with you guys. Like, I did. Like, Trump's idiocy can be entertaining. He's a clown. He's a buffoon. And that can be at times entertaining. I don't want it anywhere near a presidential office. But this is actually just it's boring. It's like he's just complaining. The questions, the answers he's given aren't like, I mean, they're Trump answers. They're like, why are climate change lawyers bad? Because they're mean to me. They try to stop me from doing things. Well, why would they try to stop you from doing things? Because they like to make money, and also, I mean, I would do the same thing. You know, it's like, fuck, dude. Give me something to work with here. Okay, you can't, no banning Tia, bro. Don't ban Tia. What is going on here? Why are we banning Tia? Okay, where's my goddamn Tia? I will find you. God damn it. Why do you do this in the middle of my show? Oh, don't post swastikas in chat. Why would Tia post a swastika in chat? Yeah, don't post swastikas. But don't ban Tia either. Fucking find her and unban her. I'm not trying to do this in the middle of the stream. God damn it. God damn it now. Oh, there she is. Here, I'll play this while I'm doing this.
These are specimens. I always say they're better looking than Tom Cruise, okay? And they're even taller. Like perfect specimens. These guys, like for a fighter, you know, you have some guys that are perfect specimens. These
Right.
guys, and, you know, they pick the best pilots in the Air Force, United States Air Force, to fly Air Force One. And I get up there, and I'm sitting, and I'm feeling my way up. You know, it's up under 747, so you go through the stairs. But I sort of knew my way up. There wasn't a light in the plane. I'm saying, can you imagine? We spent trillions of dollars, and we're trying to fly in blind. But I got into the plane. The cockpit is dark black, little tiny light. You could see the pilot. A perfect-looking human being. His co-pilot, everybody was perfect. They were all like movie stars. You know, it's like I could have cast a movie with these guys and nobody would believe it because they were too good-looking. So I said, "How
what
are we
is
doing?"
he talking
Sir, we'll be
about?
landing in 10 minutes. And I look outside. There's not a light. And I'm saying, you know, I've landed a lot of planes. And you see like little lights at least. There's nothing. It's just pure desert. And I said, okay, Captain, good, but I'm looking. Now you've been in many planes where it has the computer sign saying 1,000 feet. Goes 1,900, 800. It's a computer voice, but it's an incredible voice. 700. I say, Captain, are we okay? I'm looking.
Okay,
are we
good
okay,
job.
Captain? There's no lights. And I'm looking, you know, normally when you land a plane, because I sit with pilots a lot. I think it's great. I think it's a great profession, everything. They're incredible. These machines are incredible. He said, sir, we're fine. No problem, sir. I said, you know, I don't see the lights up there, Captain. Sure, we're okay, you know. So, I mean, I'm exaggerating a little bit. You know, problem with exaggerating to tell the story. They say Trump was a coward. So I'm sitting with him. He goes, 500. And I'm telling you, there wasn't a light on the runway, nothing. And we're going in. You okay, Captain? Everything good? Yes, sir. No problem. We'll be down in about 1 minute, sir. And I'm telling you, Joe, you know, there's always a light. There's not a little pin. And all of a sudden.
Oh, God. Like, is he finally going to say something interesting?
And you hear, wah, wah, perfect landing like glass. That's how good. I mean, these guys, between the equipment and it's genius. It's pure. It was so dark, you couldn't see a thing. There was no runway. You wouldn't know where the hell you are. You're in the middle of a desert. And then I got out of the plane. I said, thank you, Captain. That's a great job. And then I got out of the plane, and I'm going down, and I see a general and another general. And I see a staff sergeant, a drill sergeant, and various guys, all central casting. Central casting. They said, sir, would you like to rest? I said, I don't want to rest. I want to figure out what the hell are we doing with ISIS. I'm hearing we can't.
Ah, Jesus Christ. I thought he was going to, like, is he going to ever say anything interesting? God damn it. Can we get to a point where this dude's going to say something that's interesting? Holy shit, man. Did the other influencers, did they watch this whole thing?
Said to the people that, you know, one of my guys called, said, I won't be able to do it. I just left with my wife and family. I said, he said, no, yeah. I was a little surprised, even though I knew he was very far away. He was in someplace, you know, and he deserved it with his family.
Fuck, he's he's the worst storyteller. Like, Jesus Christ, I thought that I'm long-winded. Oh my God. Like, bro, like, there's got to be some part in this interview that's interesting, right?
You know, the whole thing. And then
right.
I said, all right, and so we're looking who we're going to get. And all of a sudden she comes in, Sir Dana White just said he's going to do it, and he's coming back in tonight. He's taking it. But, you know, the guy is just an incredible guy. And he's like a tough champion, but loyal. Yeah, he's got to be one of your favorite people. He's one of my favorite
I love him
people.
To death. I've been friends with him for 23 years. I love him.
So would you have, because what you're doing here is incredible. I mean, everybody tells me, all I know is today I'm going, you know, you're on Joe Rogan today. People are telling me, like, I say, how the hell do you know that? But it's sort of, what you've done here is amazing. Where would you be if you didn't do the UFC stuff? Would you have this show, do you think?
Yeah, I would still be doing it for sure. Yeah.
Would it be at the same level?
I don't know.
But you would have.
It's hard to know. I think, you know, one of the things that works for this show, I guess, is that I'm involved in so many different things. You know, stand-up comedy, UFC, and all the interests that I have that lead to the podcast.
Will you always want to do First of all, you love UFC.
I love it. Yeah.
You love the fights. I mean, I watch you. You are loving it. They could pay you nothing. It'd be very.
They didn't pay me anything.
Redonk, you promised that at one point this shit gets actually, like, interesting. I'm 1 hour and 46 minutes into this, dude. And, like, even if, like, for a Joe Rogan podcast, I'm like, dude, can we go watch Terrence Howard? Exactly what Jeannie just said. It is the ramblings of a guy you hope never sits by you on a long journey. It's the dude when you're sitting there and you got your fucking earbuds in on the plane and you're, like, looking out the window and then you feel the person sit down next to you. So you, like, turn around, you pull out your earbud and you're like, hi, you know, you're polite. And he's like, hey, how's it going? What's going on? Where are you going? Where are you heading? Like, oh, no, I have earbuds in. And he's like, oh, yeah, I see that. And then they keep talking to you while your earbuds are in. And you're like, okay, cool, whatever. Jesus Christ. This is not entertaining in any way, shape, or form. There is no fucking way people watch this whole thing. Like I said, I would rather go back and watch Terrence Howard again.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You've done a great job.
So back to you and back to what are you, and first of all, I love this idea of you teaming up with Robert Kennedy.
Right.
And I love this Make America Healthy Again idea because there are chemicals and ingredients in our food that are illegal in other countries because
like Donald Trump is the last person to care. This dude is not he eats McDonald's all the time. It's like literally his fucking thing. I can't believe that Joe Rogan is taking this shit seriously. I can't take Joe Rogan seriously because I'm sitting here looking at Joe Rogan talking to Donald Trump about making America healthy again when the fucking guy lives on Big Macs. I can't.
They've been shown to be toxic. There's pesticides and herbicides, and there's a lot of shit that's been sprayed on our food that really is unnecessary, and there's a lot of health consequences that people are suffering from a lot of these things. And
I brought this chart for you.
Beautiful.
Because I had a feeling you'd be asking me.
Look
at this chart. These are healthier countries. Look where the United States is. I'm going to send this to RFK Jr. Look at that.
This is,
Bro, bring up the fact that he supports McDonald's. You guys are all so full of shit. Joe Rogan's full of shit. Donald Trump's full of shit. All these people are full of shit. How are you sitting there talking about making America healthy again with a guy who just went and worked at McDonald's as a publicity stunt? How is this being taken seriously by anybody? I fucking hate these people.
Something along the I was actually talking to RFK today, and he told me that more than 70% of young men are ineligible for the military because of their health.
I could see it.
That's
crazy. A lot of it's obesity.
So here's the life expectancy versus health expenditure.
Same chart.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
USA.
Wow,
yeah.
That's pretty good.
Jamie's the best.
He's very good.
He's the best.
But look at that. Look at the USA is.
It's not good. And that's our food.
That
that's our diet. That's sedentary lifestyle. That's our diet. That's the chemicals we ingest. That's what that is.
But RFK is going to be very,
like, this is all shit I actually agree on. And it just makes me that much angrier that these two fucking dummies are up there talking about it. Like, Joe lives a pretty good lifestyle. I don't disagree with Joe Rogan's portion of this, but the fact that he's taking Donald Trump seriously on this subject just like completely like it feels dishonest. Like, it feels like he's being a coward. It feels like he's not calling him out on this. Like, this would have been such a more interesting interview if Joe Rogan would have called Donald Trump out on his climate change, his issues with climate change, the fact that he says it's not real. It would have been interesting for Joe Rogan to talk to Donald Trump about the fact that he supports eating things like McDonald's and that's leading to obesity in our country. Like, this could have been like an actual interesting interview if Joe Rogan wasn't just jerking off Donald Trump for 3 hours. Like, this could have been good. And I think this is actually, to be fair to Joe Rogan, I think this is actually why Joe Rogan didn't want to do this in the first place. I think Joe Rogan understood that he wasn't going to be able to treat Donald Trump like he treated his other guests that had came on his show in the past. And it was going to turn into this 3-hour-long, boring conversation where he asks him softball questions and allows him to say that we should make America healthy, all while supporting McDonald's as an institution in America. Like, Jesus.
I think he's a great guy.
I love the fact that you guys teamed up.
Yeah.
And are you completely committed to have him a part of your administration?
Oh, I am. But the only thing I want to be a little careful about with him is the environmental. Because, he doesn't like oil. I love oil and gas. I think,
Just keep him out of that.
To fire. So I'm going to sort of keep him out of a little.
So there we go. That's the bullshit. Joe Rogan's full of shit. Joe Rogan is 100% full of shit. That right there. Joe Rogan has ad nauseum talked about climate change. Joe Rogan claims he believes in climate change. And then this dude sits in front of him, says, sure, I'll allow this guy to go on there and go into our administration and do stuff about food, but I'm really concerned about allowing him to do it because climate change isn't real. I mean, that's the Trump splainer right there. And what does Joe Rogan say? I'll just keep him out of that. Dude, that's sad. That's actually really sad to watch. This is the death of Joe Rogan as far as I'm concerned.
I said, focus on health. Focus. Yeah. You can do whatever you want. But I got to be a little bit careful with the liquid gold,
I understand. But listen, there's plenty of good work that could be done if you focus on health.
Here's the one that my all-time favorite, though.
What is that?
See the arrow right here? That's what I love.
Do you have anyone that is pressuring you to not work with him?
A good job putting aside his immigration chart. I can tell you what that chart is because I've seen it so many times and it's been shared by so many dipshits. I've gotten that fucking same goddamn chart so many times in my emails and text messages of like, bro, look at this. Like, it's once again the most dishonest and disingenuous use of a chart made by a Twitter fucking user I have ever seen in my life. And if one more person sends it to me, here, it's your chance. You want to take me out? Here it is. Send me that chart one more fucking time and I will drown myself in the closest fucking shallow puddle. It doesn't make any argument that you think it does. None. Zero. Zilch. Good job setting that fucking chart aside.
Have there been people that reach RFK Jr.?
Yes.
Yes, I would imagine. Because financially, he can put a dent.
I would say that.
Exactly, Tia.
And, I think in many ways they've done a good job. In many ways they've done a bad job. But I would say that the Big Pharma wasn't thrilled when they heard that, I've actually always gotten along very well with him. I've known him a long time. He's a different kind of a guy. He's very smart, great guy. And he's very sincere about this. I mean, he really is, he thinks we spend a fortune on pesticides and all this stuff, and then you end up with that chart is a terrible chart, the one previous.
He's literally the person that did all of those things. This is, like I said, this is why MAGA is so weird. Look, if you support RFK, that's fine. But he's the exact opposite of Donald Trump when it comes to like all of his policies and values and stuff. Like, this is why MAGA is so weird. Because they're like, no, dude, he's going to, like, influence him to do these things. He literally just said, no, the fuck he isn't. Did you not hear the comment on Liquid Gold? Donald Trump only listens to one person, and that is Donald fucking Trump, okay? God, okay, I can't. All right. That's it. I can't do anymore. I can't. It never got good. It was a boring ass. I'm going to say the same thing that I said about Lex Friedman and Donald Trump. They had the chance. They had the chance to turn this into a legitimately entertaining interview. They didn't need to be adversarial. They didn't need to make this a hit piece. They could have still done them and made this entertaining, and both Lex Friedman and Joe Rogan failed miserably to make this a good interview. It's really sad. That's going to be my I give it 2 stars. I would give it 1 star, but like twice Joe Rogan tried to interrupt Donald Trump's rambling ass weird old man stories and did not succeed. So I'll give him 1 extra star for that. 2 stars. 2 stars for the video. That's all I'm giving it, and only because he tried like fucking unsuccessfully to push back like twice. Oh my God. I don't know if I can even watch anything else after that. All right, we're going to cleanse this. We have to cleanse ourselves now. That was terrible. That was like, and I'm not talking about that from a political point of view. That was just bad. It was just bad. It wasn't good. All right. Thank you guys for being here with me for that. I think that's the only way I could have sat through that. I shit you not. Like, I've sat through 3-hour podcasts of Joe Rogan so many times, including people like I completely disagreed with, and watched them and been like, that was a pretty good podcast. Which poll are we talking about? Grumpy, you want me to go over the polls, period? Because overall, aggregate polls are showing Kamala Harris winning in the national. I don't know that there's been any polls recently that that I would really use to determine where swing states are going and stuff, because like early voting is showing some the poll in chat. Okay, yeah, okay. Yeah, I was going to say the early voting in America right now, people are kind of like worked up because they're like, Republicans are early voting more than they ever before. It doesn't matter if you early vote if you just get out the same numbers that you've always gotten out. That's my opinion on that. I still stand by my opinion that Kamala Harris will win the election by taking Pennsylvania. I believe that Michigan will get its head out of its ass and vote for Kamala Harris. I believe that she'll most likely take Nevada, but she doesn't even need to take Nevada. I believe she'll take Wisconsin. And I think that I still think that Georgia and Arizona end up going to Trump. I could be wrong, but I believe that Kamala Harris ends up winning the election like a 273, 265, or 270, 260, 268, something like that. I do believe it's still going to be really, really close. I think that it's insane that it's close, but that's the problem with the Electoral College is people don't vote. States do. States vote, because if people voted, there would never be a Republican candidate ever that wins. If the people voted, if the people's vote actually mattered, there would never be a Republican president that has been elected, I think, in the last, 2 decades. I think you have to go back 24 or 25 years to find a Republican candidate that won the popular vote. So you wouldn't have another Republican president if people's vote mattered. Yeah, online polls, I'm just going to tell this to you guys. Don't... are we having lag problems? Sorry, Golf. I just say this. Don't get worked up by the polls. Even if they are correct. Like I said before, it doesn't matter. Even if Trump wins, I'm still here. I'm still going to be your PTSD service animal YouTube content creator that's here to make you laugh and help you get through this bullshit. But don't let the polls. If you look at the polls from left-wing media, Kamala Harris is going to win by a landslide. If you look at the polls from the right-wing media, it's Donald Trump's going to win by a landslide. And then you have all these people that claim that they don't have any bias, that are full of shit. If you're going to take anybody's actual like opinion, I would say Alan Lichtman is probably like the most like trustworthy source, because he called it for Trump in 2016. He called it for Biden in 2020. And he's not allowing recent polls to impact his opinion on who's going to win the election. And he believes that Kamala Harris is going to win. So that's what I think. It's anytime I have technical difficulties, people have to drink, which means that I've created a whole generation of alcoholics. All right, let's talk about the poll. The poll. We're going to end the poll, and then we're going to talk about the poll. That was actually a really good point. So the question was, should Kamala have went on Rogan? So what do you guys think? Do you guys think you'll change your answer now? Do you guys think that Kamala should have went on Rogan? Do you think that two-part question? Do you think Kamala should have went on Rogan after watching Rogan's interview with Trump? And do you also think that she would have done well? I'm going to be honest with you guys. I think Kamala Harris should have done the Joe Rogan podcast. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm still giving dude too much grace. But I think that he would have conducted himself kind of the same way he did with Trump here. I think he would have attempted to be professional. I think it would have been a much more interesting interview with Kamala, because I think Kamala is a more lovable figure, somebody that makes better, like Trump's entertaining in the way of being an insult comic, and Kamala's more entertaining in the way of being like, your auntie, your salty auntie, so like, I think it would have been more entertaining. I think that she should have done it specifically because I do feel like there's a lot of people out there that think some of the dumbest things I've ever heard in my life. And that is that Kamala Harris can't speak well. That's ridiculous. If Kamala Harris can't speak well, neither can I. I think that people say things like Kamala is really not intelligent. I think that that's ridiculous once again. I think that people say things like that Kamala Harris didn't deserve the positions that she's gained throughout her career. I think that's fucking insane as well. And I think that those people being forced to watch Kamala Harris interact with Joe Rogan in a positive manner would have been mind-numbingly painful for them. I think that they would not have been able to process the fact that Kamala Harris is everything that they don't think she is. So I actually think that she should have. Jeannie, have a good day, Jeannie. Thank you. Yes and yes. All right. You wanted to see her prove that she could? Thank you for the 5 memberships, Redonk. Redonk, man of the people, even when he accidentally bans people that don't want him to. Still a man of the people. Still proving that Redonk will always be the most gray area person in our chat. And I love Redonk for that. So, good job, buddy. Jeannie left before she had a chance. I think Jeannie has a membership now already. Lady Freedom, grats. Light, grats. LB, got another one. Grats. Good job, guys. Most Daft, love that name. Okay. It was your job. You did a good job, Redonk. All right. Okay. I need moderators like Hitler had. Don't clip that. Wait, has that fight already happened, Alan? Did that fight already happen? Was that like in like Abu Dhabi or something? Tia supports you banning the swastika. It was a good job. It was a good job. You think Kamala wouldn't on principle? So the one thing I do want to say, and this is something that like will make a lot of people not want to like subscribe to me. A lot of people that want to subscribe to the we should do nothing but like eviscerate and hate the other people and like all this stuff. Like, I do think that like the best thing for the country is to get back to a point where people are having conversations. Now, I do believe the catalyst for us not being able to have those conversations is Donald Trump. So this is going to be something where I say this. It's going to be where I say that both I will mock, demean, and insult Trump and Trump supporters, because that's what they do. Because I found through the time that I've done this channel that the number of people that I have done that to that are Trump supporters that have then hung around and talked to me afterwards and had conversations about things. And this is why I get a bunch of shit that I don't want to see, but I get it. It's okay. It's all right. I'm willing to take those blows. But I've had conversations with these people and been able to, like, hopefully at least change some minds mildly, because I think that I'm speaking their language. I think that they look at the left as being too condescending, as thinking that there's very deplorable people. And a lot of times the left isn't wrong about that. So I will continue to mock MAGA. I will continue to make fun of MAGA. I will continue to call them MAGA morons. But on the other hand, I do think that once Trump is removed from the picture, there is a time where we need to be able to have conversations with each other and get away from this WWE style politics, get away from all the like glitz and glamour and entertainment and Jerry Springer, Maury Povich, you're not the father bullshit, and get back to having like sane conversations about policy and things like that. And believe me, I can mock that shit too. I can have a good time. Like my whole hope is to be, you know, a little daily show-ish. You know, make fun of people for shit that they should be made fun of. Mocked for the shit that they should be mocked for. But at the end of the day, like right now, it's almost exhausting having to make fun of people this much. Oh, you support Redunk giving a gift membership. See, this is what we do. One of one, half of the other. But really, I do think that. I think that like this, we shouldn't create an America where we're at each other's throats perpetually. It's exhausting. It's not fun. It is fun for me to make fun of people for it, but like at one point or another, we have to have like a conversation with each other that says like, do you guys really want to keep doing this shit? Like, can't we get back to like just like disliking policy values, or, you know, arguing about really like extreme positions like abortion, you know, like that's really where we want to be. Pac-Man went on Rogan multiple times, right? Yeah, and it's bad for mental health. Exactly. It's bad for the mental health. You like the call-in shows? I like watching the call-in shows. Unfortunately, I don't do call-ins on this show because my personality lends towards the extreme when it comes to like arguing with people. When I debate people, I tend to create arguments and fights. And the last thing I need is somebody dropping an N-bomb and getting my show banned, or like saying something on stream that could get me in trouble. So I avoid call-ins. Unless it's Redunk. I allow Redunk to come on here once ever. But yeah, like I don't think that that's kosher. I don't like doing it on this show because I know that there's people out there that would intentionally get my show banned. As far as the poll goes, it looks like the majority of you did agree with that yes, she should go. No, said 22% said no. 18% of you said no Rogan fans are voting for Kamala. I actually disagree with that. 2% Rogan says, or 4% said Rogan fans don't vote. I actually agree with that. So I agree that a lot of Rogan's fans probably don't vote. They're, for the most part, mostly like disenfranchised people that believe that their vote doesn't matter. It's a lot of bro culture people, a lot of conspiracy theorists. I would say that the majority of Rogan's fans don't vote. But on the flip side of that, saying that none of them would vote for Kamala, I actually disagree with. I think that there's still people out there that still look at the early days, not the early days, but the like 8 years ago days of Rogan's podcast, when he bring on Neil deGrasse Tyson, Brian Cox, when he have all these like really intelligent people come on his show and like have good conversations. I think there's still people that still watch his show that liked it back then, that are still hoping for like a comeback of sorts from Joe Rogan. And I know that like most of you guys are probably like, well, they're waiting in vain. That's never going to happen. He's an idiot now, or he was always an idiot, whatever it is. But, I think that there still exist people that watch his show that want Joe Rogan to return to being like more of a podcaster that just wants to have like good conversations with intelligent people and get away from all this like bullshit. If it leads, it bleeds bullshit COVID crap, and so I think that there's still a couple people that would have voted for Kamala if they saw her go on his show. A 63-year-old Texas man has been arrested for punching an election worker in the chest and face after being asked to remove his MAGA hat. Jesus Christ. Like, that's insane stuff. Yeah, and what Golf just said. Golf said, I think this is the militant Christian's last gasp at real relevance in national elections. Things will begin to settle. And that's why I do, like, I don't believe that Donald Trump has the ability to burn down the country. I know that there's a lot of people that believe that, but I think that Donald Trump is a useful idiot. I think that the more important thing to be concerned about is the people behind Donald Trump, the J.D. Vances, the Project 2025 people, the Heritage Foundation people. I do believe that Project 2025 is an existential threat. I do believe that Donald Trump will push through some of the things in Project 2025, but I don't think he's smart enough to get like the majority of it pushed through. I think he's a fucking moron. I think he's a clown. But at the end of the day, I will say this. I do think this is the most important election that you can possibly ever vote in. And the reason that I think that is because I think if Democrats and traditional conservatives send a message to the Republican Party by voting Donald Trump out this election, you will see a change within the conservative party. You will see conservatives look at Donald Trump and MAGA and all the cult members and say, you are cancer in our party, and we have not been able to do anything successfully since you rose up. And they will say, we want you out of our party. I think that even the Lindsey Grahams of the world will finally grow a pair of balls and say, like, we can't keep doing this. Mitch McConnell's new book is coming out where he calls MAGA and everything that happened with MAGA wrong and not helpful. Where I believe he calls Trump like a coward, or he calls him crazy. I can't remember. But the reality is that conservatives don't have the balls to stand up and say, we're being held hostage by a bunch of insane extremists within our own party, and that's a bad thing. Because they're afraid. They don't want to be disenfranchised. They don't want to lose the home that they've known for all this time. They want to still be in the Republican Party and still have the same values. But it's not their party anymore. It is MAGA's party, and the only way for conservatives to gain their party back is to vote MAGA Republicans out of office, send them a message, and evict them from their home, physically if necessary. So Democrats have a job this year, and that is to create a better political system, a more healthy political system by voting Donald Trump out of office. And conservatives have a job this year, and that is to vote out the cancer that has taken a grip on their party and the extreme politics that have taken a grip on their party. And if that happens, then I agree with what Golf said. I think that you will see a balancing of the political mental health that is extreme right now. I think you saw it with the left. When AOC first came out, I liked AOC because she was fiery, but I said to everybody around me, I said, I really like AOC, but she has to learn to be a politician. She has to learn to tone down the rhetoric. She has to learn that, like, getting viral moments isn't what it's all about. It's about serving the American people. And over the last, half a decade, I think that AOC has shown that the left has had a very, strong parental effect on her, that she's grown within the left and she's became a better politician, and she's became one of my favorite people on the left now with her progressive values. So I think that the right had the chance to do that with Donald Trump, and they chose not to. I think they, instead of saying, hey, you're making us look bad, chill the fuck out, they instead supported it because they thought this is going to win for them. So that's why I think it's so important. Yeah, Trump is not a Republican. He is MAGA. That is 100%. The violence is going to crank up. I think there will be small amounts of political violence. I don't think that there will be really as much political violence as people think. I think we think something maybe on the scale of January 6th, maybe something a little bit larger than that. I'm not trying to diminish how important January 6th was. It was treason. It was bad. It was a horrible blot on our history. But I think, most likely you're going to probably see some Timothy McVeigh shit. Somebody's probably going to do something crazy. And when that something crazy thing happens, I think that's going to open people's eyes and make us go fuck, we don't want this. This is not what we want. I still believe in America. I still do. You think she's grown worse? Yeah, I think she's still held on to a lot of her core progressive values. You know, has she became more of a politician? Sure. But I don't think that that's bad. This is where I disagree with almost everybody. I think everybody needs some type of middle ground. I think you need to accept things like that everybody deserves equal rights and that should be fought for and that should be fought for passionately. I think that, you know, taking care of people with social safety nets is very important. Taking care of the middle class is possibly the most important thing you can do. And I think that she supports all of those things. I think that some of the Green New Deal things were a little far-reaching and a little bit too far, and I think that she pulled back on those a little bit, but not great, you know? And she's also still really young. $20 on riots, bet no matter who wins. $20 on riots. Do I think there'll be riots? Damn, that's hard. White people aren't good at rioting. Let's just be honest. That's fucking, you guys can hate me for that, but white people suck at rioting, okay? Yeah, but there's a bunch of people that have been oppressed and are angry their whole life. That's why those riots are big at Lakers games, okay? White people suck at rioting. You fight me on that. I'll fight all of you on that. White people are the worst rioters that have ever existed. And there's a reasoning behind that. Because oppressed communities, marginalized communities, have pent-up anger and aggression that tends to come out when something like a cop shoots a black man, right? And rightfully so. Fucking rightfully so. White people, we're like, it's hard for white people to get mad. It's like, as a white person, you have to invent reasons for why you're going to burn something. All right? Yeah, they get caught too easy. They're too used to the cops being their friends. White people, and look, I'm a white person that's speaking from a completely opposite point of view. I come from the most poverty that you possibly can come from in America. I have literally ran from the police. I assaulted a police officer when I was 8 years old. That's right. I kicked him right in the balls. He was trying to take me from my mother to a Los Niños, and I kicked that gentleman directly in the nuts, and I actually felt bad about it because while we were in the car, while I was being driven to a Los Niños, that man was turning around and telling me Cookie Monster jokes and shit, and I was like, fuck your jokes. Because at 8 years old, I was still an angry ginger. I was mean. The football games are on some next level shit. That's true. That's true. Gray Pill might have hit on something. Koreans, but they do it a little different. I've never seen a Korean riot. I'm going to have to look that up. Gray Pill actually might be onto something. That's a study that we need to do. It's maybe the level of alcohol that's induced. See, if you get a bunch of white people really drunk at a sporting event, they will do crazy shit. Also, okay, another factor I didn't think of. Buffalo Bills fans. All right? If you were capable of getting Buffalo Bills fans really fucking worked up and got them to riot, they would do some damage. Okay? These are people that cause bodily harm to each other at tailgate parties before they go watch their favorite team play a football game. I think if you got Buffalo Bills fans drunk and angry, they would totally blow my mind. I think I'd be like, you know what? Actually, I'm wrong. I think Gray Pill's onto something. I think you might be onto something. All right, guys, I got a soccer game I got to get to. Speaking of sporting events, if you haven't liked the stream, please like the stream. Last Wednesday, I was so goddamn exhausted. I referred to next Tuesday as election day. Obviously, that's not true. But I was so goddamn exhausted that, like, I was like, next Tuesday, guys, we're going to do an all-dayer. It's not next Tuesday, but next Tuesday there will be a stream. Next politics stream will be Tuesday and Wednesday at 5 p.m. Pacific. We'll talk more. We'll have more fun. We'll mock MAGA. We'll make fun of them. We'll make jokes at their expense because they're a bunch of crybabies because they insult us. And then when we insult them, they cry like little bitches. So we ain't stopping. We got 1 week left, and we're going to use it. That's right. I'm not backing down off my fucking pulpit, okay? Tuesday and Wednesday, 5 p.m. Pacific. If you haven't joined the Angry Ginger Army, if you haven't gotten a membership gifted to you by either Fan or Redunk, because they're the coolest people in the fucking world, You can join the Angry Ginger Army by clicking the join button underneath the video. It's only $3 a month or 10 cents a day. It's cheaper than Netflix, and it's much more entertaining. You don't have to scroll to look for a video. I just sit up here and make stupid jokes and make you laugh. Unless I sit here for 3 hours watching a Rogan podcast that was terrible. Terrible. Spiken says, thank you for all you do. Thank you. Thank you, Spiken. Thank you for being here. Like I said, you guys are the one to make this happen. Grumpy Cat says, thank you. Once again, it ain't me, it's you. You guys do this. You guys make this. Like, I'm just a talking head. You guys make this. I'm just a dude that makes jokes. As far as super chats go, I actually would prefer, and I'm going to keep saying this to you guys, I prefer that instead of super chatting, if you're going to give me $3, instead give me a membership. Or if you're going to give me $6, give somebody else a membership. Like I want to engage people and make them feel valued in the chat. And if you want to give me a super chat, I would much prefer that instead of super chatting, you give people memberships. You gift them memberships. That just feels like you're doing something positive, and it feels a lot better than just donating money to me. So I would appreciate you guys just joining the channel or gifting people memberships rather than giving me money. Other than that, the best way you can support me is by being here and being the super fucking cool people that you are. Best community on YouTube. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys so much for being here. I got a new video out on Antonio Brown. It's not regurgitation of one of the live streams. It's actually a new, fresh video on Antonio Brown speaking at the Pittsburgh rally where he called a bunch of white people crackers, and it was hilarious that MAGA cheered that shit on. And it's got a little backstory on who Antonio Brown is in CTE. So if you haven't checked it out, 15,000 views in one day. 15,000 views. We coming up, boys. We coming up. We coming up. We doing some things. All right, guys. It's time to get out there. We got to go watch some kids soccer and keep it inside and not yell at referees because I don't want to be that parent. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. If you guys want to watch some football stuff, I'll be on at 9 in the morning tomorrow. I'll talk about football, Bengals versus Eagles. Fly, Eagles, fly. Love you guys. I appreciate you guys. And I'll see you next time.